Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting this Monday, October 23rd, 2017. To start us off, Mr. Clerk, if you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, rather than getting into the agenda right off the bat here, we've got some special guests here tonight. Chief King is here with many members of the department, including our friend Vojak, and had the pleasure of attending the Mass Police Accreditation Commission's accreditation ceremony. What was the date of that? 12th, was it?
The 12th.
The 12th of October, with Chief, Sergeant Bernard, and Mr. Bergman, Mr. Ansaldi, and it was quite a culmination of a lot of effort and a lot of time by the whole department. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the chief just to say a few words about the accreditation, and then I would also like to recognize all the members of the department that came out tonight and do a special thank you and a pinning for the accreditation. So, Chief?
Mr. Chair, members, first off, just real quick, I'd like to thank all the members of the department. Without their assistance, we never would have got through the accreditation process. The accreditation process, we really started in earnest about 4 years ago, and when I took over as chief 3 years ago, we really started to move forward on it, and I made it a commitment to get accreditation finished in my tenure. Deputy Chief Patterson took over as accreditation manager from me. He was assisted by Sergeant Matt Bernard, but really, you know, Nicole Magliozzi, the administrative assistant of the department, was great in formatting and helping us through putting it together. But the entire department, every person who worked there had an active role in getting accreditation done. And I will tell you, having talked to many other chiefs, this department probably worked best through the accreditation process of many departments in the Commonwealth. We're one of 75 in the Commonwealth out of approximately, well, there's the 300 plus cities and towns, plus the colleges. So we're one of 75 who's actually has reached this pinnacle for law enforcement. And it shows what a professional group each and every one of those officers are. It shows a commitment from the community. Couldn't have done it without the support of the Board of Selectmen, without the support of Town Administrator Keith Bergman, and Anthony, the Assistant Town Administrator, when he came in, was very supportive of us finishing the process. And, you know, I can't just say enough about the men and women that I work with, and that in, you know, 7 months' time I will very much miss working with. But you know, they make the department. I don't. I may you know, be the chief, but without them, the police department and the nucleus of the department doesn't exist. You know, we try and lead, we try and point, but they help lead and point just as much as anybody else does. And with that, without getting long-winded, again, the accreditation, you know, process took us through a lot of, if you will, introspection and looking at how we do things and making sure we're doing things in the most professional manner, and in a manner that also begets law enforcement to its core and what Littleton is to its core. And that's where what really matters is, you know, what Littleton wants for its police department, what it wants from its police department. And policing certainly has changed since I started back in the early 80s. Back in the early 80s, it was strictly a law enforcement. You wrote tickets and you arrested people. Well, that's certainly, every one of those men and women can attest, that certainly isn't the way it works today. And with that, I would just like to say thank you again to the board. Thank you to the men and women who work for the Littleton Police Department, and I just want to give you all a hand. that, Deputy Chief Patterson's gonna hand out some pins to all the officers. I dare him to pin Bojack. We'll see how that goes.
Chairman gets that one,
Why don't you go up, Chairman? Mr. Chair's gonna come up with you, Jeff, just one second.
Well, just have a quick look, here's what,
Sure, that's great too.
Jeff, why don't you just have
Why don't
everybody
everyone
just
come up in a
kinda-
row and they can shake hands with all board members too and trip over cords.
hands here, and go around. Sure thing. Make it special. You want to get involved? I'll hold this and
Congratulations, thank you.
Congratulations so much. Congratulations. Congratulations, hi. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
No, but Kim did.
Congratulations.
I found out.
Congratulations.
Still here? Oh, yeah. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations. Always nice to see you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'm doing fine.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Watch your step. Congratulations.
So much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
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 Congratulations. Congratulations. Good work. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna give that to Anthony. Since we're, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Very much.
Chief alluded to the fact that this demonstrates the professionalism of our department, and it shows that we're in compliance with nationwide as well as statewide best practices for law enforcement. So thank you all for everything you've put into it. Thank you, Chief, Deputy Chief Patterson, Sergeant Bernard, and all those, Nikki, everyone that's that helped out to get us to this point. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I point out that there is one person absent tonight, and that's Detective Sergeant Pablo Fernandez.
I
And
can't have the floor while we're here.
I'm actually very disappointed that he's sitting on a beach somewhere while all you folks have to work. But no, in truth, we need to recognize your colleague and friend, and we're very proud of Pablo as answering the call, as the town of Littleton has when Governor Baker was seeking bilingual officers to go down and serve in Puerto Rico to help in the aftermath of the various hurricanes that struck them. So we do know that we are not only proud of your accomplishments, but that of your colleague who's serving in the Caribbean right now.
Thank you. If I can real quick, we've been in contact with Sergeant Fernandez on about every other day. They are right now, not only has they've taken a police mission, they've been involved in, Sergeant Fernandez has been involved in several arrests down there, several domestic situations, several high-intensity situations. But all the officers down there, on their own, made arrangements with FEMA, and all the cruisers go out with a full stock of water and MREs, and they're distributing those in their districts while they're out there. So not only is it a law enforcement mission, it's a humanitarian mission that they're down there doing. It's tough conditions. He says that the photos you see on the news do not do it justice, what you see. There are dead animals all over the place. The destruction is tremendous. He said he looked at a Catholic church. It looked like a bomb had hit it. Houses are gone. He said they've gone to officers' houses whose houses are destroyed, and they're going to work every day, working 12-hour days with no days off. So, our guys are going down there for 14 days and doing this work. But I don't know what's going to happen. I imagine, and I'm thinking that the mission is going to get extended because he said that it's, you know, the destruction is just so bad that it, you know, it's making it difficult to rebuild it. But with that said, he's checked in with his family, he sent us a few photographs and things like that, which will get out on the Facebook page more and more, and, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for bringing that up, Paul. Okay, back to our business here. So, just run down the agenda real quickly. We're going to have department updates. We'll start off with finance and budget, and we'll do a discussion of Selectmen's FY 2019 budget priorities. We'll go on to update on the launch of the town's website upgrade. We'll get into the highway department, plowing, sanding, private ways conversation. Then we'll have an opportunity for public input. If you do wish to be recognized for public input, I just ask that you raise your hand, be recognized by the chair, and state your name and your address, and any comments should come through the chair. We'll have an opportunity for members to give an update if anyone has any. Then Mr. Parker's here to give us an update on the Point, what's going on up at the Point. We have a public hearing at 7:30 for the O'Neill Cinemas at the Point. Also have a public hearing at 8 p.m. It's a continuation of the McIntosh Lane road layout. At 8:15, we have an update on one of our selectmen's goals. I believe it's Selectman Napoli and Gerbig on the opioid, our goal for opioid awareness. So I think there's going to be a presentation there. 8:30, October 30th, special town meeting. We're going to do an assignment of articles. There are some articles that we need to make sure that we have assigned and adopt any recommendations for some of the articles that we have not adopted yet, recommendations on. We will then have at 8:45 the town administrator, assistant town administrator report, where we will discuss the hiring process for the replacement of Chief King. At 9 p.m. we'll have minutes approval, and then we will likely adjourn by 9:02. It's an aggressive.
With any luck.
All right, so I'd like to start off with the mail. Mr. Bergman, if you could lead us through that?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, a few items. First, we have a notice from the fire department about a fundraiser for firefighter EMT Scott Holt. It'll be held on Saturday, November 11th from 6 to 11 p.m. at the Billiards Cafe in Air. And it's a major fundraising event for our injured on-duty officer, and we're all we think of him every day, and are praying for his recovery. So,
Just before you go on with that, I just, Chris is up in the booth. If Chris, if I have in front of me, I have the flyer for that event, if you want to bring it up on the screen while Mr. Bergman goes through our mail.
and next we have the agenda for tomorrow night's joint meeting with Finance Committee. The schedule for our fiscal 2019 budget calendar includes which you adopted last summer, includes a joint meeting on October 24th to review Selectmen and School Committee budget and capital priorities, preliminary 5-year revenue and expense projections. The Board of Selectmen is discussing tonight its priorities for the new budget round, so we'll have something to report. And that will be the limit, though. I know the projections will be coming at a later date. Next, we have information about the Mass Municipal Association Annual Convention and Trade Show, which is going to be held in January on the 19th and, it's the 19th and 20th, actually, that's the Friday and Saturday. At the Convention Center, the Heinz Convention Center in Boston. And if any members would like to go, we would love to register you for it. That it's a great networking opportunity. I'll spare you you already saw who the poster child was for the networking.
I pointed that out.
And I wasn't going to put that up on the screen because we have the selfie of all of us as a screensaver. But
Were they trying to get Thatcher and they got you? Was that what that?
Yeah, I think they misfired. But it's a great opportunity. The educational sessions are always great.
The speakers are knowledgeable, it's always timely, but even with the high quality of those events, it's the networking that you get to do with your colleagues, and that there are lots of selectmen that attend those from across the Commonwealth, as well as mayors, city councilors, and managers. So then it's a great opportunity if you get to go.
Do we have to do anything more formal than just let you know?
Let us
I mean,
know.
well,
Yeah,
Tom,
let
you
us know, and we will register you
Yeah.
for the conference itself, and we'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say for a long ago version of this board, we found it a great annual, much as the retreat we had a few weeks ago, which was tremendous, and I thank you, Chairman DeCoste, for initiating that. This is another opportunity for our board members to do exactly what Keith said, both educate ourselves, bring ourselves up to date, socialize, and mingle with other communities, but also on our own, on a social level. If we're all able to get in there, it's a great bonding opportunity, and things that you never hear folks say, in meetings or even at other events in town, or come up, and it's a great opportunity. I hope everybody's able to attend.
Yeah, I think you're right, Paul. I think from talking to you and from other members who have been in the past, and from other colleagues from other communities, they've always come back with great things to say about it. So it would be neat if we could all get there, at least for one of the days.
Yeah, we can sign you up for 1 or 2 days, or
enforce.
whatever you like, yeah.
Represent.
Okay, next we have hand-delivered today. We knew about the date, but the Friends of the Council on Aging is holding the Veterans Lunch, and that's on Wednesday, November 8th at noon in the multipurpose forum. And last item that I'll mention in the packet, we got it today, and I sent it to you electronically, but that is, today we received, and we'll put it on a future agenda, we received a notice under Chapter 61A of intent to sell or convey property at 100 Spectacle Pond, and the abutting property, which has also been called the Cricket Lane, which under Chapter 61A, it's, you have a community has 120 days to exercise its right of first refusal. Just so you know, that's February. We don't have any town meetings scheduled between now and then. For some reason, we always get these notices right at the beginning of one town meeting, and when it's 3 months until another one, I don't know. I think people are paying attention to when we meet at town meeting, but that the purchase price for the 11-acre Cricket Lane site is $1 million, and then the 100 Spectacle Pond property adjacent to it has a purchase price of $200,000. So we ought to talk about that. If you were to decide that you wanted to have the town exercise the right of first refusal, you can only do that by having a town meeting. That's how you exercise the right, is by actually going to town meeting and voting to acquire it for the offered price. So, and that expires in February. So we'll have that on a future agenda. And just for reference, this is the location. 200,000 for the for the lot that's on Spectacle Pond Road, and $1 million for the 11 acres that abut also Cricket Lane.
Keith, when we do discuss this in more detail, would you or Anthony mind putting together a timeline using February 13th as the drop dead date? What things would have to happen between now and then, and what deadlines would we interim deadlines would we have to hit?
Sure.
If we did want to exercise that?
Okay.
Posting a meeting, that kind of thing.
Right, posting
Yeah,
a meeting.
having the
all-
town meeting.
Exactly, all of those
when
things
would
have certain
you want
lead
to
times to
close the
them.
warrant, when would you hold and we'd want to make sure that we coordinate with town council on that time frame, so we don't, oops, we're off by a day or something. It's just-
Yeah, exactly.
We can put that together. Okay, and that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we have, next up, item 2A is Selectmen's FY 2019 budget priorities. We have Director of Finance and Budget here in the front row. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hope that your integration has gone well.
Oh, God, it's like all consuming, but it's going well, yeah. Yes.
It's good to have you. You want to go ahead and take the lead? Appreciate it, Bonnie.
So despite, working on the system conversion, we're also meeting some deadlines with getting our values certified by the Department of Revenue. We're starting our budget process. The budgets are not due until the end of this month, but we're well aware that there are some things that are very likely to appear within the request, so we thought it would be helpful to at least kind of go over what we know is coming up, and there will likely be some unknowns that appear by the end of October, but a lot of these things we've been discussing over the past few years. Anyway, last year, having your priorities in place helped us identify targeted increases, when we find ourselves with more resources. So having your priorities in place allowed us to add a few services last year for the school department staffing, some increases in the highway staffing, police. We added the ALS component into the fire department. Elder and Human Services was augmented with staffing, and in IT, which would be addressed this October on a special town meeting. What we don't have funded is what's in here, and we know that that's probably coming down the pipeline. The one that's been most discussed since I've been here is the facilities director. Seems to appear pretty much every year. This would be to hire a facilities director for all of the town's facilities, to include the school department's buildings. That doesn't necessarily mean that the budgets will be all coordinated together, but that might be the end goal, to have all of the budgets coordinated together. At this point, we're looking to have somebody manage proactively rather than reactively, which is what we tend to do right now. We do our best with the Permanent Municipal Building Committee. They do a great job, but they're an all-volunteer board. So they tend to address projects as they're brought to them. We have some facilities, custodial services here and maintenance facilities, but not for the entire scope of buildings that we have. And we have about $100 million in buildings that we've invested in since I've been here. So it's a lot of facility to manage. So that's about $80,000 if you estimate it being placed on grade 12 plus benefits that might be taken. It might be different, when the job description is drafted, but that's a good starting point. The second one is roadway and pavement management. This includes just not town roads, but town facility roads, so like the high school road in this particular example. Chris Stoddard had taken a look at the high school roadway and estimated that it was going to be in excess of $500,000, and it's closer to about $800,000 to repair it as it is right now. If that road is allowed to continue to degrade, you'd have to do a full reclamation, and that would be probably double that if Chris is here.
So Chris is here, so if you okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that
Subject matter expert.
800,000 is probably closer to $1 million, but that includes the parking lots as well. So the road and the parking lots at the high school.
All impervious then?
Yeah, basically everything impervious up there, so not just the road.
Okay.
Is it within its expected lifetime, or was there some issue when it was?
I don't know when the high school was built.
01.
01. It's getting close. There was no preventive maintenance done on that, so that's going to be a prime example of why preventive maintenance makes sense. So yeah, 15 years, 16 years is about the life you're going to get out of that with no maintenance. That number also includes doing curb work, because I know we have some major curb failures up there. Concrete curb, to replace them with granite curb, so that cost is in there as well.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, Mr. Stoddard, before we go on, Bonnie?
No.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Also, while Mr. Stoddard's here, highways and parks. While we did add a full-time parks employee this year, it wasn't the full amount of staffing that was recommended under the previous study done by the Collins Management Center, and also ratified in the recently completed field maintenance study, which stated that another 2 full-time positions should be added. The cost is to add 2 full-time people is about $90,000 plus benefits, just for the field maintenance work. The field maintenance study also identified an expense of about $250,000 to best address the annual maintenance of the town fields. We know that there is funding in place between several different departments to start to address that in some capacity, but we think that we need to add an additional line item under the Parks and Maintenance, Parks and Fields Maintenance line item of the Highway Department, just to deal with the supplies and services that are needed. And we think about 100,000 is probably the right number to start with. It may not be the best number to best address the fields, but to start making some progress, that would be the targeted amount.
Mr. Chair. Would it be possible to put together an assessment of essentially the late or the unrealized costs that we would be incurring if we didn't actually implement this? So, $250,000 seems like a lot, but the fact of the matter is not doing maintenance is also very expensive. So if we could have some analysis done saying, if we didn't do anything to the high school for 15 years and the roads fall apart, right? If we don't do anything to the maintenance on the fields, here's the cost that we're incurring, we just don't see it. And I know that's probably a little harder to do with the fields than it is with things like highways, but if there was a way to quantify that unrealized cost, it may be illustrative.
Yeah, I don't know that we have the in-house staff to do,
I'm not 100% sure how we would do that.
No.
I mean, I can kind of interpolate from the example of the high school, knowing what I've spent up there. So we can try it, I just don't know, I don't know how accurate it's gonna be, I guess.
At some point, the field wouldn't be able to be used. So it's a matter of that, and then also if we just continue to let it fail like the high school before we put 30,000 roughly
Yeah.
into that, then it becomes a liability issue too, that you really can't have somebody play because they're gonna twist an ankle because it's all mud. So it's tough to put a dollar amount, I think, on that, but I think as an example, that 30,000 that Chris spent made that high school field unbelievable.
Drastically better.
Yeah, it's drastically better.
But not
than it
just the
was.
money, the rest too made a big difference.
So the rest is huge too, yeah.
I mean, I guess what I'm interested in is, if we did minimal maintenance, what would be the cost 5 years from now, 10 years from now to do a large reinvigoration project, and how do we account for that? The reason I'm asking that is that $250,000 seems like a lot, but I don't actually think it is, but we need to be able to show what we're offsetting by spending that money now as opposed to waiting for things to fail. So whatever way to do that might be best.
You could make some assumption about when you incurred the replacement costs for the facility or major reconstruction, and by pumping money in, do you push that off for 5 years, 10 years?
Exactly. And I have no preconceived notion of what form that should take, but I think we should have some sense of what that looks like.
And I think that we can get to that number, so the $250,000 is a number that we extracted from the Gale study, the Gale report. And what's proposed is less than half of that, $100,000, to kind of help us figure it out. I mean, we've put $30,000 in within the last 6 months, and I think we're gonna be kind of walking blind a little bit, trying to figure out what needs to be put in, what fields, we need to assess and determine what needs to be done, and Chris can speak to that better.
The 250,000, nearest I can tell, that's basically 100% contracted out services. So that 100,000 is much closer to the realm of work that we have the ability and the equipment to do versus some of it having to be contracted. So that number should be able to be less than that 250.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure, of course.
With respect to the field maintenance study, it also recommends that we develop and maybe implement an inclement weather policy. Has there been any discussion about that?
So that's all part of the MOU between Park and Rec, Highway,
Okay,
and schools.
yeah.
So I think that, am I correct in stating
Yeah,
that?
Gale Associates drafted up some language starting for that to be incorporated into that MOU.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that's, there've been challenges with that over the past several years.
Right.
And having been involved with youth organizations.
Right,
we all know all too
understandably,
well,
right,
but,
right.
I think that from those experiences of successes and failures, I think we've been able to massage that, and I think we've got an end product that will move us closer to the right the right answer.
Okay,
That MOU will come back to the board too, so
Correct.
you'll be able to see that.
all right, great.
All right, any other questions about parks?
Next one is stormwater. So again, with Chris Stoddard, he mentioned that there's going to be a need to add 2 seasonal engineering positions. That would be 16 weeks per position between May and August to do, I think, largely the field work that
Yeah,
needs to be
GIS
done.
mapping.
So the cost is about $25,000 plus any fringe. It wouldn't be benefits, but there'd be some minimal fringe. And this may be able to be funded through the Clean Lakes funding that's been allocated to us, or may not, so we're gonna have to look at that, but that is gonna be a need coming up in this next year.
Thus far on stormwater, we've not had to rely on any general fund revenues because the funds from Clean Lakes has been available,
Right.
and they still have a healthy balance in that fund.
And Chris, is it accurate to say that this is something we would need to do, and we either have someone staffed in-house or we hire a consultant to do
Correct,
it?
so if we
It's
don't,
cheaper this way, yeah.
if we don't get these staff members, we actually end up having to use Ty and Bond, who's our consultant, at a drastically increased rate. So the idea is to hire them in-house, work for me with Ty and Bond as guidance onto where to go and what to do.
On a contract, but
Yeah, it's primarily location, GIS and GPS locating our infrastructure that we need to do regardless.
Per the MS4 permit, is that right?
Yes.
okay, yep.
Next one is in dispatch. Chief King has identified, he had actually identified in the last budget cycle, the need to have another full-time dispatcher on for the busiest shift to allow for better service coverage. There are multiple calls coming in with one dispatcher. The addition of ALS dispatch will increase some of the volume there too, so this was a priority. He's not looking for any police officer staffing, he just would like to have this dispatch position put in. That's about $45,000 a year plus benefits. In the fire department, there's no staffing requested, but there is the 30-year-old ladder truck that's still aging as we speak. So it's near the end of its service life, the repairs are becoming significant and frequent. We've had some serious failures in the last just few weeks. Chief Wazinski is estimating that the cost to replace the apparatus could be about $1.25 million, depending on the features that are put on this new truck. So this has been in the capital plan for the last at least 3 years, so this is not a new item. And then we have under, sorry,
I was just seeing if Chief had anything to add.
same story.
Are you on your knees right now?
Let's see, and under transportation, well, the town's made a lot of progress in addressing the transportation needs as it relates to Mart and the MBTA station. There's still the last mile shuttle needs to the common and the businesses in the area that are being met this year with the assistance of a grant that will likely not be there next year. So if we want to, retain these services and enhance them as there's a lot of demand for them, he's estimating that about $100,000 is going to be needed in order to keep the services.
Yeah, that's a ballpark. I think what's going to happen is once people see a service up and operating, they're going to say, why not, why not add, why not expand, why not go to somewhere else? And I think we should be proactively preparing for what that's going to look like. We've had discussions here that about and just over in Acton, that there's a shuttle, town of Acton shuttle, 11 times a day goes to Avalon Acton, and may, be willing to add a stop where folks who live at 15 Great Road could just go out their back door and take that shuttle. The point at which folks in that part of town have access to that kind of service, I think we're going to start hearing about why not, why aren't we having other services available? So I think we'll need to become a player. It's certainly a theme that was in the master plan, that we need to be proactive. So,
Just from a devil's advocate
Yeah.
standpoint, if we, I love the fact that we're looking to add that
Yeah.
service for those folks at 15 Great Road. Unfortunately, those folks are now going to Acton businesses to support Acton's tax base, instead of driving up to the point or to the common to do their shopping, or, so I think there's a balance there from an economic development standpoint and from, again, a tax base standpoint, so kind of a double-edged sword. So, which could justify us,
Well, I guess I'd like
Being
us
more
to,
active.
yeah, I mean, if Acton can do 11 times a day throughout its town, I would like Littleton to ask how many times can we do throughout the entire town? And 100,000 will just throw will get us a little bit into that.
sprinkle some
but-
service on.
Yeah, but I think we need to be a player to offer our folks some sort of service. And-
I'm not playing devil's advocate
Yeah.
for
No,
adequate
it
services in
it could be
Littleton.
more incentive to address the very issues you would raise. I mean, if they're finding it easier to make their services met in Acton, then we ought to meet the challenge. And, and we're doing that in various things with the sewering and the rest to make more services available, but the transportation's part of it.
Keith, when you say, excuse me,
Sure, absolutely.
when you say the $100,000, does that just include the one route right now that brings?
No, it wouldn't necessarily. That right now, our local share for that one route is $9,000.
Right.
Okay, just on scope. And even if there were no state grant, then it would double to $20,000, what our proportionate share would be just for that one time a day. I'm thinking that the sorts of expansions in service we might see are that route more than once a day, maybe twice a day, morning and afternoon, or that route expanded instead of just going in one direction towards IBM and Littleton Common, maybe it goes across 495 to the point. This is a commuter rail shuttle, last mile shuttle. We'll talk to Sam about that afterwards.
I have to go now.
I know. And we
phone just went off.
know he has no room for park and rides, but we'll
We'll talk.
Or to head towards Air Road, to, Potpourri and some of the other employers, or look at other places that folks want to go, not just employment centers, but also shopping opportunities and other things. So I think 100,000 will let us be a player to do something in our first full year of operation.
Great.
And the
development?
final thing is, in this list, is professional development. So while the town department budgets do budget generally in their own department for training, so technical training. So in my own, for an example, as accounting rules and regulations change and DOR comes out with updates, I need to go and get that information.
Sure.
So I budget for that in my own department. Professional development training is not budgeted in almost any department, with the exception of the school department. We do have a small budget for it within the human resources function to cover like sexual harassment training, open meeting law, anything that, in general, that the employees need to know about working in a municipal environment. However, we've seen in the last couple of years with the transition, with new managers coming in and new staffing coming in for professional development, management training, we have a lot of new managers that have not been in certain, situations and would definitely benefit from the investment in their skill set. In looking around, the 5,000 doesn't scratch the surface. It barely keeps us covered with the required trainings, like the open meeting law stuff and what we have to do for the employees. We think if we bring that to 50,000, under the control of the selectmen's, or the town administrator's budget, this would allow for more regular investment in training. Again, we have a lot of new managers. We're going to be getting a lot of new managers with retirements coming on. And I think it's just worthwhile to make the investment in this particular.
So if we make the investment in training somebody just to do their job initially, we want to retain that person, otherwise we lose that investment. So employee retention is a huge part of training and development. So
Yep.
I like the fact that we're looking at that and trying to
Right, and the Board of-
invest in our staff.
And the Board of Selectmen and the Personnel Board have adopted professional development policies, because it has been a policy to promote, to encourage promotions from within, to people to, be able to learn from, to stay here and share their skills with us.
One of the things that's not on here also is just in IT, I know we're adding the Tier 1 help desk position for Nancy this October. I don't know that that fully addresses the needs. There is no backup for Nancy. If Nancy gets hit by a bus tomorrow, we're in trouble.
Whoa, whoa. We don't have any runs yet, so
I
we're
follow her
pretty
around
safe in
with,
Littleton.
Just once a day.
So I want to
Stay
throw
out of
that
ACTA
out
now.
as another item. And just while you're here, and while I'm here, I also wanted to mention that we have the tax classification hearing scheduled for November 13th. Last year, we had a informational session booked with the selectmen because it was something that the board wanted. If you want to do that, we can offer that on the 9th, which would be the Thursday before the meeting. That's kind of what we did last year.
What session would this be again?
It's just
Informational?
Informational. So it'll be a posted meeting, but it's just to talk about the options on the classification hearing.
So that the hearing itself is not the first time that
Right.
you're
Yeah,
introduced
I think that
to
worked
the
pretty
options.
well.
Yeah, I think that's worthwhile.
New here, let me say, yes.
Yeah,
please.
it's boot camp. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's classification
Worthwhile.
boot camp,
Right.
right?
right.
That's
So
what
we
it
will.
is. Thursday the 9th?
Thursday the 9th.
We'll all be reminded of that.
Yeah, should be reminded of that, yeah. Next day is the holiday observance.
To go or to avoid?
Right.
We should go.
We're live, Chase, you're aware of that, right?
That's why I was putting him on the spot, see, this is good politics.
All right,
That's all I have.
all right, good.
Great.
Just while we're on the subject, is there anything that Keith, you or Anthony feel as though we're not addressing that we should be aware of?
This looked like the list that we worked with Bonnie on compiling a list. I think we've covered the big items. I know there have been discussions over the years, for all of the 10 years I've been here, about a facilities manager, and I think the time has come to seriously consider that.
I like the fact that we're looking at ongoing maintenance and preventative maintenance and protecting our investments. And I think it could potentially be money well spent for whether it's the facilities manager or the money that we were just thinking about with Chris for maintaining the fields. So I appreciate you bringing this forward and kind of giving us some numbers so that we have an idea of what's in front of us. Be great if we could say yes to everything, but, there's,
Yeah, that won't happen.
right. But it gives us a good snapshot and idea of what lies ahead. Any members have any input or any
Yes.
thoughts?
Yes.
Kind of suspected.
Right. Yeah, but I appreciate this very much, and as always, Bonnie's memos are spot on and actually easy to understand for those who don't understand the fine points of it. But I will say this, but what I requested a few weeks ago, I think at our retreat, that we have another whack at this. My specific point, and I'll make it again, is that we incorporate or make sure that what is incorporated are the selectmen's priorities. And what we just have was a very excellent recitation of what the department's priorities are.
Right.
Fortunately, we're in wonderful agreement on most points. But I think what needs not be lost in the process is, are there other items that the board members, based on their own experiences interacting with the public or their own, their own agendas, want to see represented here? And I'll just react a little bit on a couple of points that come to my mind, and I hope that will spur others. The staffing for the information technology aid, Nancy, I supported that fully last year, and was delighted to see it incorporated in the fall town meeting. And if Bonnie's right, and I'm sure she is, we may need to keep an eye on that, because I think expectations grow, and shame on us because our ability is there on a technical level to have a more interactive town hall. Through the internet, through the computer, and that involves staff capability to keep things real-time updated, and so I think we need to monitor that. I'm not as sold on the facilities director, having lived that before. I mean, once upon a time, we did do this before. I don't want to get stuck in the past too much, but there's lessons to be learned. We appointed a facilities director before. We had one in relative good times. And that person had a tough time finding their niche because each of the individual departments already were doing, this was one of the lessons, a good job of managing their own facilities. So they solicited, they solicited, or she solicited input from all the departments to gather into a book and then presented of all the, the various capital things that were being done, but they were already being done at the department level. I mean, that's part of the reason why we hire professionals, and it was kind of a bureaucratic overreach, and when we had to let that position go in a budget downturn, I'm not sure that there was a whole lot lost. So if we're going to do this again, I think we got to be real mindful of what is it we're trying to add to the process that we aren't already getting. I would remind the board, too, that within the past year and a half, we've added 2 department head level positions in the DPW director and assistant town administrator. Terrific successes both. But is our real need to continue adding at the top end, or if we have personnel needs, should we be adding at the at the end that has more direct interaction with the public, whether that be highway workers, whether that be police, fire, town hall. I mean, I would tap the brakes on that a little bit. Along similar lines, we haven't heard it much lately because we've been experiencing I would say, an unusual growth period for the past few years where we're able to accommodate needs, but and I'm going to put him right on the spot because he can handle it, but Steve Venuti has always been very good about reminding the board that added personnel are our biggest long-term expense concern, and as we are catching up with, the obligations we have for benefits, insurance, retirement, etc., just because you have money in a given year to add a position, that's not the same as being able to project out that you can do that over time. And especially when you consider that those same dollars could be going towards saving in our various accounts, which both Steve and Bonnie have guided us in the Finance Committee toward creating for capital planning. We have a lot of capital projects on the horizon, seniors, a library, etc. And capital projects, I think, in the short term, probably ought to be a real priority in terms of discretionary spending allocation, and I hope the board keeps it. And finally, I'll throw in a 2-bit plug for a success in last year's budget that went largely unheralded, but I hope we continue. That's a maintenance of the policy that if we are not taxing to the max, then we are proclaiming to the town at large and the world as a whole that we are in charge of our finances, and I think we ought to maintain that as a stated opinion of the board, that we want to not tax to the max if we can help it, and do all of our all the town's business under the levy limit, with the exceptions that the town has voted on that we've all planned for. So,
Thank you very much. Any other comments from other board members? No. So I will say that I think this is a great starting point. I think we each look at any addition of any full-time employees as benefit eligible employees and realize that if you have a $45,000 employee, that's not what it costs the town. It costs the town north of that. So I think that when we have our deeper discussions, those numbers have to be discussed. Gary Wilson has gone through a number of these positions with me, and he's able to quantify very, very succinctly what each costs us over the long term, as you mentioned. I will thank all the departments and Bonnie for putting this together, and I think that everybody was mindful of our goals, the goals that we have stated. So in some ways, these are to help us fulfill what we've set out to accomplish this year. But I do encourage each of us to think about what else we could be doing, what other budget needs there might be, and some of it might be savings, Paul, to your point. And it might be,
I mean, in different years,
cost avoidance and savings.
there used to be, there was a phrase called budget orphans, things that don't have a natural, person or department to promote for them. Once upon a time, it was open space, you know? Who actually speaks out for that? You know, you'd think, well, conservation, well, they don't really have that in their budget, somebody else's. So things that don't have a champion, but we've done a good job of assigning our champion chores, so I would encourage everybody else to take the same exercise. Does this budget reflect the things that, I or my, constituents want to see in there? This is not criticism. I think we're doing a great job of doing it both through the departments and then now at the beginning of the budget process,
Taking a
doing
look
it
at
this
it
level.
early, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Prior to the summit.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right. You good, Bonnie? I appreciate you bringing that forward. Thank you. I think we all do.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.
We have public hearings at 7:30.
7:30.
I suggest that we invite Sam to talk to us.
I had done a little bit of an arrow and
Yeah.
talked about looping him up. Is there something we could do? You ready to come up now, Sam?
Sure.
We may have to interrupt you at 7:30 just to.
I'll be very quick.
All right.
I'm Sam Park. I know most of you. Great. You're new.
Yes, sir.
Great. I'll just go real quickly since time is important. I wanted to give a quick update of where we are. I like to do this every fall.
We appreciate it.
But basically, here's an aerial photograph just recently taken of what the point looks like today, maybe actually a couple weeks ago. But it basically, as you know, we've been progressing up the hill. So we basically now completed phase 1, phase 2, which is the second level. And I won't steal, I know you have Dan O'Neill following me, so I won't steal his thunder, but his building is completed and it's really quite spectacular. Being built here. As of last week, we've really completed most of the infrastructure to support the rest of the build-out of this level, which you see is we are digesting what we've built a little bit for the next, this winter, resuming again this coming spring with the rest of the completion of what you see here in the dirt area. So what we have basically is the first phase down here is fully leased. The second phase here is about 90% leased, and the third phase now that we've brought Emerson's critical care facility. So last year we were here, just to bring everyone up to speed, we've decided to go with a more mixed-use concept. Actually, it's probably been from the beginning, but up on this level we have Emerson's Hospital's critical care facility, and then downstairs on the second level we've tried to create more of a places to go, things to do, not just shops and retail. And it's probably fortunate for us. I think sometimes it's better to be, in our business, better to be lucky than good. There's been the Amazon factor has led to a lot of brick and mortar closings, but we aren't seeing any lack of interest in our center because we have healthcare, we have some office coming in shortly, we have the cinema, the grocery, and we've brought in some really good restaurants, and now we're bringing in this the third component, which is the fitness. And for those who don't know, we're bringing in some spas and some title boxing opened recently. We have a local person going in with something called So Vital, which will be a yoga dance studio. So our concept has been slightly different than your typical retail center, which has allowed us to afford us, all this stuff that we've done with the fire pits and the granite and the amenity spaces. But it also, oddly enough, shields us a little bit from the recessionary trends of retail. So we think that's been a pretty good thing for us. So now we're basically waiting for Dan to open, and at which point then, after that gets absorbed, we'll then begin marketing and completing the final phase on the hill, which is just opposite Emerson Hospital. Now, as of last week, we finished all the paving, just went in, and the landscaping in the islands. The flowers won't be planted till the spring, but the trees have all been there so they can root it up. One other neat amenity that we'll be bringing right next door to Dan is something called Metro Rock. It's an Olympic climbing gym, and this is just the first rendering for Metro Rock. We've executed the lease, but it's basically a 40-foot high indoor Olympic climbing gym with bouldering, and it's apparently a very big sport these days, especially in the tech communities. And since this corridor between Route 2 and Route 3 has such a huge tech population, to us it's kind of shocking. The people who are building this actually have so far built in Brooklyn, in Boston, and then they chose Littleton, so and Burlington. So I think it's a kind of a nice amenity to have. And that will kick off phase 3 hopefully in the spring. And so at the end of the day, we're pretty much on track to complete what we started, which is phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. This year being what Dan will talk to you about shortly with the cinema, the Metro Rock. Then this will go once we've started marketing. We've actually not marketed this phase yet because we were never quite sure
Which way?
where and when it would happen. And then the final phase would be the last 2 office buildings that we hope will be coming around perhaps a year later. But unfortunately, most of the heavy construction is done. We're restoring now the berms and what have you, and we'll start doing the landscaping, prepping it so next spring we can finish all the buffer plantings and what have you. The only thing that was kind of disappointing this year was, unfortunately, we weren't able to do the ice rink this winter because we had to make a decision by July 1st as to whether there would be a place to put it. And because of construction, we didn't think it was safe to place the rink in the construction zone next to the cinema until the cinema had opened. So I have received a few letters from some middle schoolers that I will probably have to take to a Bruins game at some point. Although if this is being televised, I might now be taking the entire middle school. But it is nice. It's been a really good community amenity. I just wanted to reassure everyone that we intend to bring it back as soon as we get the rest of the development stabilized. And so hopefully by this time next fall, we will have our Harvest Festival again with fireworks in. So that's the 5-minute update, and I'll let you go back to your more official business.
You won't
Are there
take
any
questions?
Oh, sure. As long as it's not dealing with the bus route, I guess I have.
No, but transportation related, if you don't mind.
Please do.
This far into it, and we all love everything you've done up there. I hope I'm speaking for everyone. I certainly do. I was up there an hour or two ago. How are you finding the traffic patterns and the traffic dispersal, especially with the rotary as constructed as being an effective means of getting people in and out of there?
Our experience has actually been working. We've done the rotary concept in 3 or 4 different places. I think we've hit the right size for this one. It slows traffic down, and it seems to circulate and seems to work pretty well. If you hear it otherwise, I would like to hear it, but I think right now, the concept of having that middle lane going up the hill that
Yeah.
allows left turns.
I haven't had a problem. I'm just
So-
curious as to
Yeah,
whether.
no, I think we find it actually, one of our other tenants, namely Market Basket, said, "You got that rotary right, now to go fix the one in Gloucester," so, which was a little bit smaller. I think, there's probably something we'd like to do in the spring is just recheck the timing and the queues on 119. There seems to be a lot of times that you're waiting for a light
And
when
nobody-
no one's
yeah,
coming,
right.
especially the left turn. So those things I think are a matter of tweaking.
Sure.
State's usually pretty receptive to making sure it works at its optimal. And so that's something we'll do after we get a little more traffic generated, namely with the cinema open. Other than that, I think everything's working pretty well. I think the pedestrian ways are working very well. I think people enjoy the fact that we see a lot more people walking there than we actually expected. So the fact that you were able to build a sidewalk may be the reason.
With your help?
Oh, well,
Thank
that
you.
may be true, but it was a nice amenity, and we're glad that the high school has a safe route. I was on the Walk Boston board for many years, so the fact that you have safe route walks, safe walk routes is really kind of a good thing to have in a town this size. So I don't know if there's any other
Any
questions.
comments, questions?
No, just thankful we have you as
Yeah,
a
thanks
builder.
for-
I think
thanks for
it's
being
been
here.
mentioned many times.
Well, we're here to hopefully stay, so we'll keep you posted in another couple months. We'll come back, and at that point, we'll have the cinema open, and hopefully we'll have Dan will throw a big party for you all. Okay, thank you very much.
Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good stuff.
Public hearing.
Right, so we do have a public hearing scheduled for 7:30, and that is the aforementioned O'Neill Cinemas. So,
See, you want me to read the
please do, thank you.
legal notice? The Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, October 23rd, 2017, at 7:30 in room 103 of the town offices located at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. To act on the application for the entertainment license pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 181, is requested by DTT Lounge LLC, Daniel C. O'Neill, manager, doing business as O'Neill Cinemas for the property located at 1208 Constitution Ave, Littleton, Mass. The point in which the application is available for review at the Town Hall offices in room 306. The entertainment would consist of theater, movie, light show, recorded music with amplification, and video games with administrative charge at movie ticket prevailing price, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. at the premises described as a movie theater lounge and ticket area totaling approximately 45,000 square feet. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the town administrator's office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, or in purpose at the hearing. Board of Selectmen, Charles DeCoste, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
And then there's another.
We do have
hearing
another notice
the
for
common
the
vic license.
common vic license. You want to take it back and have somebody else read it, or?
I can't find it though.
Chase?
Yeah, let me take a
It's
swing.
5A and 5B.
Chase got the
The Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, October 23rd, 2017, at 7:30 PM in room 103 of the Town Office Building, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass., to consider the application for a common vic license, MGL Chapter 140, Section 2, as requested by DTD Lounge LLC, Daniel C. O'Neill, manager doing business as O'Neill Cinemas, for the property located at 1208 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts, The Point, and which application is available for review at the Littleton Town offices in room 306. The hours of operation will be Monday through Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. at the premises described as a movie theater, lounge, and ticket area totaling approximately 45,000 square feet. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectman/Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, or in person at the hearing. All interested parties are invited to attend. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Charles DeCoste, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Gould?
Good evening, Cheryl Gould for the applicant, and I have with me the O'Neill Cinema gentlemen.
Welcome back, gentlemen.
Dan O'Neill and his sons Timothy and Dan O'Neill.
DTD.
And I brought them, frankly, Common Vics is pretty pro forma, but I brought them because I wanted them to tell everybody where they are and be on TV and promote the wonderful new business we have.
Oh, yes, live.
I'm leaving right now.
This is cheap entertainment. It's free.
So we're in front of you today to apply for the Common Vic license, which goes hand in hand with the alcohol beverage license, which you have already granted to this applicant, and also for the entertainment license. And when I looked at your application, we checked off most of the boxes as to the types of entertainment that they would be seeking. Of course, first and foremost, it's a movie theater. In addition, they plan to have an amplification system for the music, recorded music, movies, theater, maybe a light show. There may be an event that they host that will have to do with a light show. They will be charging admission. They'll be charging movie ticket, theater prevailing prices. And we've applied for a limited number of video games because sometimes in movie theaters there are video games in the lobby, even though there's no current plans to install the video games. So it's a common vic for the food operation that goes along with their Board of Health permit for the restaurant as well as their liquor license. And then it would be an annual entertainment license to include the movie theater and recorded music. One of the exciting things Mr. O'Neill told me he's planning to do is to broadcast live satellite opera at one of the theaters, which I think will be very interesting for this community.
They do that in Lowell, I know that, but I've been over to it.
So if you have any
Culture and
questions.
whatnot.
Me and about 4 other people.
How many?
Adjust that business plan.
Well, let me make a couple of comments. We're on schedule to open up 11/17. That's our game plan right now. Everything's coming into it now with the subcontractors and the contractor. I think you'll see a beautiful complex for the community. It's all stadium, reclining chairs. We're gonna have a full lounge serving food and alcohol. Large format screen so you can watch the Patriots or Red Sox, etc. And each reclining chair will have an art table, so you can, your wife, etc., have a glass of wine while watching a movie and so forth. And from this point on, my sons will take over.
Are we going to be able to broadcast the Board of Selectmen meetings?
Absolutely. Whatever you
No, but-
need.
The entertainment license says no dancing.
Yeah. In 3D.
Put that on the 72-foot screen.
Nobody wins. This is on a 17.
3D?
More like 4D. Gentlemen, anything to, like your dad did a nice job of summarizing, but anything to add?
Well, one other thing, we're gonna have the largest screen in the region. It's almost 80 feet wide.
Ooh.
So we have bragging rights.
I'll have Danny can tell you about the sound system.
It's a 3D sound system. It's called Dolby Atmos, and basically they can pinpoint the sound around you. There'll be 60, I think it's 64 speakers in that auditorium. So
Wow.
yeah, it's going to be quite a festivity. What else?
Yeah, it's called the Grand DLX, that auditorium, and it's a premium large format. It's similar to like IMAX or Regal and AMC. They all have their own version, so ours is called the Grand DLX, and there will be an upcharge, but it's well worth it.
That's cool. I'm sure- I'm
Yeah,
sure
we made a
somebody's-
point to have a screen larger than Lowell, larger than Regal down here in Marlboro. So we're saying it's one of the largest screens in the region.
That's great.
Big screens in Littleton. so.
Yeah.
Nothing but the best for them.
And I think, well, Anthony might be able to help me out with this. I know that you've addressed some of the needs of the Disability Commission. So that
Yes.
when there's folks that have certain disabilities, some of those needs have been addressed as well.
Yes, we've been working closely with them to
Good.
make sure everything runs smooth on that.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah, appreciate that, working with them. Any comments, questions,
Well,
the applicants?
true, and I'll probably just dig two deeper holes as I do this, but I'm noticing, is this an accuracy or an inaccuracy on our part, that on your corporate name, O'Neill is a small n, or are we getting that wrong every time? We print that, it should be a capital N, of course, all right. That's easy. The other part is I'm happy that your liquor license is coming in with the opera, because when I had to go over to Lowell to watch the Wagner ring cycle, I had to fill my pockets with nips because I didn't yet have the, right. We solved that problem here. 4-hour opera, you know.
Chris, move the camera off of Mr. Glady, please.
It fits well with
Something
that
just fell out of
name.
his pocket.
Trying to help your sales a little bit.
Right.
Oh,
I think something's happened in the old days.
I think I had a comment. Any
I
other
nipped my
members?
pocket right
It's a little bit outside of the context of these two public hearings, but the liquor license and the service plan that goes along with that, is that all buttoned up or we're close?
The ABCC will have that to us this week,
Okay.
and you were forwarded a copy, I believe, of the
Correct.
alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah, the chief has approved the
Right.
service.
We're extremely happy with the plan that they've come up with. It's very comprehensive, and they're gonna do their own liquor stings also. So, I mean, it's a great plan.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys maybe going the extra mile there to provide that plan to us
Yeah,
and
meet our
give us a sense of how it's gonna be managed.
A pleasure.
Is there any other feedback from any other boards or
No, we
chiefs?
got
or-
no further input. And you had received, I think, quite a bit of input back for the
For the
liquor license public
yeah,
hearing.
ABC, right. Okay. Any further deliberation, any questions? Anybody have anything? No?
No.
Good? Entertain a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 2, to approve the application of the DTT Lounge LLC, Daniel C. O'Neill, manager, doing business as O'Neill Cinemas, for a common victuals license for the premises at 1208 Constitution Ave, Littleton, Mass. The Point, with hours of operation Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. at the premises described as a movie theater lounge ticket area totaling approximately 45,000 square feet.
I'm assuming there was a motion to close the hearing prior to that, right? I'll incorporate.
Now you can go ahead, Joe.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So it's closed, motion to close the hearing?
Yes.
Second?
Moving and seconded to close the hearing. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Moving hearing closed.
Hearings.
The hearings are closed. That's what I said, right?
Yeah.
It's part of our town.
Talking like I had some of Mr. Glady's nips. So there's been a motion made for
Who's on top of things?
Item 5A.
5A, yes.
Common vic license, I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, thank you. Entertain a motion for the entertainment license, 5B.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 140, Section 181, to approve the application of DTD Lounge LLC, Daniel C. O'Neill, manager doing business as O'Neill Cinemas, for an annual entertainment license expiring December 31st, 2017. The entertainment would consist of theaters, movies, light shows, recorded music with amplification, and video games with an admission charge at movie ticket prevailing price, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 a.m., at the premises described as a movie theater, lounge, and ticket area, totaling approximately 45,000 square feet.
Second.
It's moved and seconded, any further debate? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you
Very much.
Step closer. Yeah. Thank you.
17th of November, folks.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. See you at the movies, okay?
BYO popcorn?
Check the spot.
Don't BYO.
Don't have to anymore.
Don't drop the popcorn, okay?
Make sure you frisk this guy when he comes in.
I'd suggest we do highway to let Chris go,
Yeah.
and then Steve.
So we're gonna go with whoever's furthest away?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna stay for the
Okay, so
the
we'll
road
go.
one.
Okay.
I mean, the
Then have a
McIntosh
seat.
Lane, so you might as well do.
Okay.
All
So
right,
Steve.
Stand down.
Sorry.
Stand down.
Mr. Venuti
I feel bad.
and Nancy? Great. So, Joe, if you could keep me honest, at 8 o'clock for public hearing for McIntosh?
Public input too.
Yeah, yeah. So this agenda item is, where are we? 2B. I thought maybe the opera goer would say something Shakespearean there, but
Or not to be.
town website upgrade. So, Mr. Venuti and Ms. Glencross?
Good evening. This is, I think, our third time coming before the board, to talk about the
Right, yeah.
the website. I'm the designated spokesman. Nancy's been doing most of the work. Before we get really started into the website, we'd just like you to watch this.
Sit back and watch.
Welcome to Littleton, Massachusetts, a modern suburb of Boston. Founded in 1714, Littleton has a rich history as a farming community. It was known for its apple orchards, food, and dairy farms. Many of those same farms are still in operation today. We are a diverse and vibrant community with activities and events year-round. Littleton has over 2,000 acres of conservation land for hiking and exploration. Our parks, playgrounds, and lakes provide active and passive recreation for all ages. Littleton is home to just under 10,000 residents. You'll find top-rated, modern schools that are ranked amongst the best in the Commonwealth. In 2013, Bloomberg Businessweek voted Littleton the best place to raise kids. Because of its proximity to Route 2 and Interstate 495, it's easy to get to and from Littleton. The MBTA Fitchburg to North Station line has a full schedule of stops for those using the train to travel to and from work. Because of our great geographic location and business-friendly environment, many major businesses have chosen to relocate to our town. Littleton is a special place to live, work, and do business. Come experience Littleton and see what community really means.
That's great.
pretty awesome.
I haven't seen the final cut, that's great.
I'd just like to give a shout out to Mark and Kirby of LCTV for putting that together.
That's fantastic.
So that is one of the main focal points of the website. It's accessible right through one of the menu systems right there, the Welcome to Littleton video. The look of the site really hasn't changed all that much since we last met with you. There'll still be some minor tweaks cosmetically that will be happening in the next couple of weeks or so. We're hoping to go live November 10th. There's still content that needs to be pushed over.
So 1 week before the
1 week before, yeah, we'd like to get the jump on it. One of the good things about the site is there's 4 or 5 different ways to get to just about anything as far as content.
Ease of
So it's
use.
pretty easy to get around the site. These menus are what they're calling mega menus, so they, very easy to see. We've done a lot of things to get things into certain categories, to view, for apply for something, to register for something. There's also this little section right here. We're going to think about renaming that to more of the services aspect, but if we want to find out about absentee ballots, we just come here and it takes us straight to the town clerk's page where she talks about absentee ballots. Every board, and every committee, and every department has a page on the site. So there's public safety with the police and fire, and the volunteer arms, boards and committees. You can see the huge list of boards and committees we have, but everybody's well served.
That's Wallace and Cindy are commissioned.
We've got a list, we've got a list.
Rolling them down. Departments, again, every department in town has a page itself. And then again, our Visit Littleton section. This section with about Littleton right here. We have a little blurb about the town itself. And kind of setting things up to be really general about the town and bring people to specific things. We have something on history for businesses coming in. We have policies and regulations. A little lookout for commercial properties for sale or for lease out to LoopNet. Business certificates, again, brings you over to the town clerk's page. We have this feature, which probably won't be up for the initial launch. But
We're starting in reverse order.
But just think of
What do you
this.
mean, remember, things that'll be up last? or-
No, funeral homes.
End of
Just think of
Last mile.
these categories being filled with different types of businesses in town. And we're going to have some outreach to some of these businesses to get a page. So funeral homes was easy to do since there's only one, but think of, 6 banks or 7 banks in town. You'll be clicking on
Some
them.
we've.
We get them and drill down into a little further view, bring them straight to their website or email, depending on what the business wants to do, with a little blurb about the site itself. So that's something that we're looking forward to, again, to help promote the businesses in town. Each department, again, one more thing on the Visit Littleton site, we do, another way to get around to things is we can get content and bring it specifically for residents or for businesses or for visitors to town. So residents, again, could see a list of things that they may be interested in and bring them straight to the page that it's right on. Departments, we'll pick on Keith's page. So each department is basically set up the exact same
How'd you
way.
find a picture of him? He's very camera shy.
He is. There'll be links.
Yeah, we can put that one up.
Links to the left, contact information. You can see we have Keith's tweets, Twitter feed,
No, look at that.
right embedded right onto the page.
No, go to the next one.
There you go.
Is that what you were? Didn't know it.
And each page will have could have their own news and announcements. So one of the things that on our website today, there's only one spot to have news and announcements, that's right on the homepage. But now each department or each board and committee could have their own news and announcement section. Not everything needs to be homepage worthy, but it's still news to the town. People will be able to subscribe. We'll bring out some agendas for certain boards and committees.
And will that subscription be committee or office-based? So I could subscribe to Board of Selectmen and Planning Board, but
Yes,
not.
that's
Yes.
close to everything. Yeah,
Yes.
you can pick.
I could show you that link right now. So it's really right here, it's e-alerts.
And then we'll share your statistics to see who.
So we have
And sell the results
agendas,
to marketers.
news and announcements. And it goes out in a nice looking email, looks really nice even on a phone. It's very nice.
That's cool.
Speaking of phone, the whole website is mobile friendly?
Yep. Boards and committees with their pages. So again, each board and committee looks basically the same. Links, important links onto the left side, contact info, staff contacts are inside town hall, a listing of board members. Again, news and announcements specific to the board. And then this calendar, each board, as they schedule meetings, this calendar will come up onto the screen. You could hover over it and see that there's a Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow night, that there was a Selectmen meeting and a couple of public hearings tonight. Agendas would come right underneath. And again, we have the option to view all and be sorted by year, so you can call up all the agendas for the year. Again, as I mentioned before, we'll be emailing some agendas out. So from the Littleton logo coming down is what an emailed for the public hearing that you just had would look like
That's a sample.
to the public. So that's a sample of what it would look like coming out. And again, it's mobile friendly and it came out really nice.
Would it be possible to have the meeting-specific LCTV link included somewhere in this infrastructure? So if you're interested in this meeting, you can click right through to LCTV Live.
We can put the videos, I think, on each department or board page. We can put a link to their video. Yeah, we can do that.
Getting back to the selectmen's page here. And minutes will work the exact same way, and everything's associated right to that meeting. So once a meeting is posted, you associate the agenda and then eventually the minutes to that meeting. On the home page, we'll go back to the home page. So not only do we have this menu system navigation up the top, and by the way, as you scroll down the page, this top piece collapses, and these are always viewable on each page.
It's frozen.
Yep. We have these 6 buttons for some more pertinent information, things that are viewed a lot.
Quick hits.
We have 2 calendars that we're showing for community events and for public hearings that show the next 5 things that are coming up. So there's the next 5 public meetings, next 5 community events that we have on the calendars. We also have spaces for news. So these are news items. Again, it'll be something that's able to be emailed out to people. So as we put town news up there, we'll be able to see it. And then, so this would come out like this in the email. And then we could click through, see the PDF for the event, or whatever is happening on the, for the news item. Any of the top 3 things will fit here. So we have the police department accreditation, we have special town meeting. Special town meeting has its own links. Each special town meeting, I think going back to 2007, is listed on a separate accessible link. Town reports are also out there. We will have, I think, a link to the town code probably in the next few months, maybe 3 months, electronically, so it's searchable. Open checkbook after the conversion's done, probably looking at the first of the year, fiscal year, so probably in July, going back for this fiscal year's financials. The town calendar, so as these things get filled and you want to see what actually is going on, we come to a full calendar. So this is everything, meetings, COA things, events that are going on, not only here, but 4-H Club meeting at the LPD. So it's really a room reservation system for us also. The public can come in here and they can filter. If they want to see recorded meetings, not recorded meetings, community events. You just click on what you'd like to see and hit apply. And now we have all the recorded meetings for the month. And it's also going to help LCTV do the scheduling.
Will those be hyperlinks to the video, to the LCTV link?
Each one of those, I think we'd have to put it, once you click onto it, I don't know if I can put it in the actual calendar. You can if you click on there and then
So if we
go-
click onto that, so any meeting, so this is the
Then we click-
announcement for the meeting.
All the attached
And the
information.
agenda is there.
We
The
could have
upload,
we could have it there.
the minutes would eventually be there, and you could possibly put the link in there also. So,
Google search?
Yeah, it's not on yet. but
Google
it's
search, yeah.
yep.
Yep.
Awesome.
What's the process that we're going through to make sure that the payments portion of the website is fully functional when it goes live? There's no kinks? What's the
Online payments?
process we're going through to make sure that the online payments and paying your bill online function is fully operational when it actually goes
Oh,
live?
it's operational now.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just flipping it over to,
It's still going out to the same links.
okay.
Same
They're all
service.
external,
Yeah,
yep.
in the bank.
So I think it's easy to navigate. I think get some good responses. We'll have a page out there when we first launch the site to get comments from folks to make sure that we're addressing all their needs. Any questions?
And we'll be coming back here on a, every, quarterly basis perhaps to continue to update you.
Okay. Before I open it up, do you mind if we just pause you guys for a second just to open the public hearing? We have, 8 o'clock. Peter,
You don't have to,
we don't have to read it because
you
it's
don't
a
have to read
continuation.
the notice, just to
All right.
reopen it and then.
All right, so consider that open.
You're open now, you're in abeyance, and now we're back.
All right, and we're back. We'll get right back to you. Any questions from board members, Mr. Glavy?
Yep,
Start us off?
Looks great. It's obviously a significant improvement over current operations, but I just wanted to get on the record some points that folks in the public have brought to my attention, and I just want to make sure they're reiterated here. I was particularly happy to hear you just say a moment ago, Steve, that there will be an opportunity for comments, because I think a risk we might have run here is, we've got a lot of people that are website savvy in town, in a community that, we have a lot of knowledge base out there, and we did this essentially in-house, and they may well come up with ideas after the fact. I was at a meeting of the LBA, Littleton Business Association, recently. Selectman Knox was there as well, and there were some, questions raised relative to, will there be improvements to the search program, and what would those entail? Will there be, will this website be more, will there be more ease of use for accessing it on mobile devices, which was not the case in the previous one? There were folks that were solicited for a response back in June by email for their input, but they never heard back as to whether or not their ideas were incorporated or not, or whether they were acknowledged. So they were kind of like, one was like, well, I was asked for my opinion, I gave it, and I never heard back. So I hope this is as advertised, as adaptable to future changes to reflect, the input of a engaged and a pretty informed community that might well have good ideas about things we ought to do with this site. I would also just say that happy to see the drone footage incorporated. The Economic Development Committee floated that idea, was immediately grabbed and put into use, and now we got to go back into the drawing board and redo our drone work. But that particularly is wonderful. It's a great sales pitch for the town, and I think we all appreciate that.
I'm sure there's plenty of footage that.
Oh, yeah. No, we were going to do a generalist approach, and now that that's been incorporated into the town's approach, we're just going to go back and focus on some of the business stuff. That's it. Great. As long as this is, I'm looking forward to the launch date and looking forward to see how well we integrate folks' input, and can't wait to get you some troops on hand to help you with your work, Nancy, both this fall and in the next budget cycle. A little disappointed
Write
to
that
hear.
down, Diane.
No, I've said that over and over again. A little disappointed to hear that I thought that it was going to be this past fiscal year that when we'll be able to do the open checkbook as a result of the conversion. Now it sounds like it's not till next July. What's the reason for that?
The financials probably won't, for this year, won't catch up to be converted probably till April or so. I think that's the latest timeline.
Of course, we're still on the old system.
We're still on the old system, yeah. So FY 18's financials will totally be converted. We're basically just converting totals from the previous years.
So for this year, for the 19 budget, we'll still be working off of the 18 numbers off of the existing system.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that, I interpreted that as
Checkbook
open checkbook would
piece.
not be live on the website until July.
Right.
So we're gonna be live on open checkbook like April-ish? Well, that's where the final switch is?
We'll be changing to the new general ledger probably in April.
Okay.
The open checkbook's just a module to that.
Yeah.
So we'll probably complete this fiscal year's transactions, put that up. We'll be doing some testing from conversion
Okay.
till July to make sure everything's right. Put that up, and then
Switch.
as the new fiscal year starts, those transactions
Everything
will
will be
automatically start populating.
If
So
that's
you'll
our new
have-
target, and there's an explanation for it, I'm fine with that. I would just say, use the opportunity of the new website to promote, an upcoming attraction, and if there's any changes of that along the way, let us know when and why.
I think initially, the conversion piece was thought to be a little closer, but
Right.
there's a lot more to it with
Okay.
finding out that.
Understandable.
Right.
Great work. Thank you.
Yeah. Cindy, any
It looks
comments?
great. Thank you. Thank you for your work. I love it.
I asked you my questions throughout, so, thank you. Good job.
No, they- great job. I like the part that you did include businesses in the future, that people will be able to get in there. And the idea that you're going to use LoopNet to talk about some commercial buildings that might be out there that some people wouldn't even know about if it wasn't having something like this. So I thought there's a lot of thought that went into that, so.
It's very proactive. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely forward-thinking, and we want to try to get some of those empty buildings
Right.
occupied. So if we can make sure that, maybe we can work with a local LoopNet person too, to make sure that some of the properties that are not currently on LoopNet get put on LoopNet. So
There's not many out there on LoopNet right now. There's just
kinda
three
limited.
that kind of
Yeah.
show, so it is limited, but you're right, I mean,
yeah,
there should be more out there. There's enough vacant properties in town.
right, absolutely. No, thank you for all the effort all the time. I know Anthony spent some time on this, and for all the resources that you guys have worked with. I think Diane Corey's helped you guys out as well. So thank you to all of you for all your work and time.
Good.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
All right, we did open the public hearing for McIntosh Lane, and we do have the developer here, so if you're looking forward, just introduce yourself and hand the gavel over to you, the microphone at least.
All right, Pete DeCarlo, Stecker Corp. Last time I was here, I had a handful of items, physical items to complete with the roadway. They've since been completed. We had a few legal things, so I need a certificate of compliance from Conservation Commission. They've done their inspections and issued the certificate of compliance. I've since recorded it. Highway Department is all set, I believe. Chris is here, I can confirm that. My attorney has prepared the deed. Town council has approved it. I believe everything is all set.
Signed off, right?
That's right, yeah,
Planning
we're all,
board,
we're all set to go.
Yeah,
Yeah, planning board is fine with it.
Yep.
We filed, the plan was filed with the town clerk prior to today, so we meet the 7 days before town meeting requirement for
Good.
that.
Any questions before we take action? Nope. Okay, we take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
It's been closed, seconded.
Yep.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we're closed. So any discussion relative to the road layout acceptance? Entertain a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 82, to approve the layout of the private way known as McIntosh Lane as shown on a plan entitled McIntosh Lane Road As-Built and Street Acceptance Plan, Town, Littleton, Massachusetts, prepared for Decker Corp. by Places Associate Incorporated, dated August 2017, plan number McIntosh ASB Sheets 1 and 2, said street having been constructed to the satisfaction of the Planning Board and the Highway Department, and to support the October 30th, 2017 special town meeting, Article 16 for acceptance of said layout.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
It's pretty easy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So we'll bring this to town meeting 1 week from tonight.
All right.
Before we go further,
Yes.
I would suggest that you do public input cases, because it was down at 7:10. I have no idea if there's somebody here for it, but
I appreciate that input, Mr. Clerk, and I will heed that advice. Open up to public input. Anybody wish to be heard? No? Thank you for that. How about member updates? Any,
Can we do 2C to let Chris go?
fine. Mr. Stoddard?
That'd be awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your input tonight. Appreciate you being here and helping us out with some of those, items. All right, so 2C is plowing, sanding private ways.
And it has been the practice for Highway to bring us the list each year. I know the petitions went out earlier than usual to folks, so they'd have a chance to address their issues. And as usual, it's divided into those roads which are approved without further conditions and those that are subject to meeting the conditions of the Highway Department.
You've laid out the conditions and...
Yeah, they all know, they've all been notified. Actually, since the list came to Keith, there's been a few others that have already met the conditions, so. I think we only have 1 or 2 outstanding, so, and they're in the process of doing it, so.
Okay. Any questions specific to plowing, sanding, private ways? Mr. Levy?
One question, two points. Chris, are there any of these candidates for potential acceptance as town roads at any point in time?
Not without a capital cost.
Are any of these folks talking about that, thinking about that?
I've had conversations with folks out at Green Needles, particularly the first half up to the circle.
Those talks have been going on 30 years.
Exactly, those are the only ones.
Right,
The
okay.
rest of them would take a substantial capital investment.
Right.
Well, and then I just add as a comment that this is, that we're down to a point where you can put the list of roads in one paragraph, is a huge improvement over where we were a long time ago. And this, the credit, certainly goes with Chris, but his predecessors too, done a lot of work of whittling down this list. It's not easy, because a lot of these, a lot of the work that the town was doing was justified, but it was also not legal. So it was kind of difficult to get through, and everybody who had a role in solving this riddle deserves credit. So I'm glad we're at a point where it's as uncontentious, non-contentious as it is now. It didn't used to be that way.
Right. Well, good point, Paul. Thank you. Any other comments? You want to make a statement, or-
Oh, just to note that I'll abstain from this vote, as I do live on one of the private roads listed.
All right, that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to its August 28th, 2000 policy on plowing and sanding of private ways to approve the list of roads as recommended by the Highway Department, report dated October 10th, 2017, as follows. Approve without further conditions, Barron Way, Bar Place, Countryside Road, Road number 504 to 512, plowing only, Hiddenwood Path, Oak Ridge Road, Omega Way, Rock Place, Silver Birch Lane, Whispering Pine Drive, Wickham Avenue 139 to 149, and Wing Cove Road. Approved, subject to conditions set forth by the Highway Department, Cricket Lane, Deer Run Road, Green Needles Road, Neshoba Woodlands section, Green Needles Road, the back half, Robinwood Road, and Star Hill.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Please note that abstentions. Just note that Chase abstained, with good reason. Not that I'm the judge of your reasons. All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. So, that, I think if we jump up to number 7 now.
Do the member updates, Mr. Chairman?
We can do that, but we'll get back on track and do
All right,
the
well,
updates after
whatever.
that.
Okay, sure.
We've got some folks here that have been
Yep.
sitting there patiently waiting.
Yep.
So, Cindy, you want to take the lead on this?
Sure. So Janessa and Donna, do you want to come up?
Thanks. I'm not sure if there's great.
See.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I invited Janessa and Donna to come in. Chase and I have met with them both on a couple of occasions to talk about the opioid issue in our community and surrounding communities. And I just figured it would be nice if they came in so that the rest of the board, and Anthony and Keith could meet them also. So if you both want to just introduce yourselves and.
I'm Janessa McQuaid. I've lived here for about 4 years now. I work in the substance abuse field. Actually, Donna's my boss. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
They all know me.
Well, you're still louder for the cameras.
So most of you do know me. I'm Donna Kivlin, whether it be from good or bad, you know me. I'm a person that's living in long-term recovery, which means for me, I've not used any illicit substances or taken any mind-altering pills since April 4th of 2012. I was a dental assistant for 24 years, and upon my own recovery, I've devoted my entire life to giving back what was given to me. I have 18-year-old twins that are now seniors, believe it, and a 13-year-old that knows more than all of us.
I think she's 18.
Yeah, exactly. And what I want to do, and what we want to do is let the kid, we're losing too many, too young. The awareness isn't out there. I felt very alone when I came when I started my own recovery, I felt alone. I have lived in Littleton since the twins were in kindergarten. And I don't want our kids feeling that way. I want them to feel like they can come to us and reach out and get the help that is needed. When the police departments respond to overdoses, it's more than just an overdose, it's more than just a substance abuse issue. They need to follow up. It just doesn't happen and then it goes away. There needs to be continued care. And the way that I look at it is, if we don't do it, who's going to? We're not here for any recognition, we're just here to let the community know that we're silent, we are here, and we are full of resources.
I think it's the outreach and the education piece that's missing a lot here, unfortunately, not to down. These schools are beautiful, but like I was telling Donna, I went to the high school and there's like a pamphlet about, does your child smoke marijuana? Well, we're not even talking about marijuana. We're talking about heroin, we're talking about oxys, we're talking about skittle parties, things that are going on in communities around us that will be coming here if it's not already here. We pretty much know it's already here.
So you formed an organization.
So we formed an organization, it's called PASA, People Against Substance Abuse. And what it is it's just the two of us wanting to bring everyone together as a community to the table to help solve a problem. One of my favorite quotes is, how do you eat an elephant? It's just one bite at a time. And that's pretty much what we're doing here. I don't know if anybody knows the story of Lois Gibbs. She was a mom in New York years and years ago, and her son became very sick. There was a company that was doing dumped landfill in around where there was a school built. And a lot of the children there developed cancer and they got very, very sick. And Lois's son was one of the victims, one of the kids that suffered from it. And she wanted to reach out to her community, but she was afraid that she would be judged and that she would be laughed at. So the first night she went into the driveway of a neighbor's house and she thought, I'm going to be laughed at, I'm not going to do this. So she went back home. And a couple of nights later she did it again, she went back home. And the third night she took her son and she knocked on the neighbor's door. And that's how hazmat and OSHA started. So, it's just one little step. I think I went to a training the other night, and Goals to the Community, he just nailed it, and it said, we have to know who we are, what we have, what we need, and what we want. And if we just put those 4 goals into the community, then we're there. The kids need to know. And there's far too many school districts that are using outdated awareness prevention programs. They need to hear how it is and not the outdated material. I just wrote a couple of notes down for myself.
No, you're fine.
So, I really think that that's it, but we need to, this community is, like I said, I felt so alone when I first came into recovery. And if you had told me 5 years ago I'd be sitting here in front of you all outreaching, I would never have believed you. But to have the opportunity to give back, what over the years certain moms have reached out to me, it's all worth it. And I just want these kids to know, and not only the kids, but I want parents to know, because I know that there's moms and dads out there who need to be the super mom or the super dad. And I know that there's issues. And I just want them to know that we are here. here.
I think our biggest point, she's good, isn't she? I think Donna has lived it here, and she wants to make sure that what happened to her doesn't happen to someone else that tries to reach out for help or anything, and I think that that's like our biggest goal, is to make sure that if people are struggling, it's confidential. You can call us. It's, you know, we're gonna give you the resources, but we're also not gonna look at you different or close our doors because you have an issue. Addiction is very lonely, but we are there to help them get to where they need to be. Yeah?
I'm not just jumping real quick.
No, not at
I think
all.
when we set out and we made this a goal, I believe we did it in 2016, we set it as one of our goals. And Jim Carr and Melissa Hebert did a PSA. And they worked with the police department, with the fire department, and they brought a guest in who had lost his son, you know, a dean student at Worcester State, dean's list student, and it's, to those super moms, super dads, they, you know, nobody thinks it's gonna happen to me, and it's happening all around us. You know, I've got it in my family, not with my own children, I hope, to the best of my knowledge, it's not my own children, but I've got it with a niece of mine that it breaks your heart to see this beautiful young lady that is dependent, and, you know, just looking to have a resource and stop the stigma. And,
Right.
you know, when I drive to work every day, as I drive through the town of Rentham on Route 1A, I kept seeing these signs, lawn signs in front of every house, and it says pound, or I can't stand the term hashtag, it's a made-up word, but I'm dating myself, hashtag 2069. And it's an awareness thing that a group down in Franklin and Rentham, a church group, started for awareness for the number of lives that were lost within the last, I think it was, at the time, I think it was 2016, you got the numbers in here, which were a little bit different. 1933 was the number that you guys had in here, but from the state. But 2,069 lives were lost. It might have been over a 2-year period, I'm not really sure, but one's too many. And we're starting to see lives in our own community that, you know, people know these folks, and it's happening in our backyard, it's happening in the communities around us, and so we set out to do this as a goal. We wanted to make sure there was awareness. We've reached out to the police and fire, and there's resources there, but there's that fear of going to the police. If I go to the police, I'm gonna, you know, something bad's gonna happen, I'm gonna get arrested, and to have an organization like this, where you guys may not have all the answers, but you know where to look for them, I think it's a great resource for us to put forward to the community, and for us to offer up, you know, in partnership with the police and the fire.
Right.
And, you know, every resource we can find to put out there is what we need to do. And, you know, the high school does, you know, try to educate them to the best that they can. There are resources out there, but we want to make sure we're putting the best resources out there, so that if we can reach one family and help them to reach another family and pay it forward, you know, I think, I commend you both for coming forward and for telling us your story, and for helping us to help our community.
Thank you.
So, didn't mean to step all over you, but
No, that was perfect. That was wonderful.
Chase has been involved in this as
Can
well.
I ask you a
right?
question that I know the answer to, but I think it's a really important, the answer is really important. Are you intending to be a resource just for people with their own addiction needs, or for people who have family members that are also struggling?
All, everyone. It affects everyone. There's no, we don't have a limit.
So, my child has a problem, and I'm trying to figure out how to communicate with them,
Come
how to
to
work
me.
with them.
You go, or you come to us, you call us. And there's no, it's all confidential.
And, you know, obviously, I knew that, but the impact in, you know, your materials really accentuate this, the impact that this has, not just on the person with the substance abuse problem, but their family, their
Absolutely.
community, all of those cascading effects, and the support that those people need to support the person who has the substance abuse problem, I think is a really important part of what you guys are offering. So, thank you.
Could I take advantage of this time just to say a little bit about somebody in town? when I first came into recovery, like I said, it was lonely. There was a police officer here in town that I said I was gonna, that I don't think he's here, but he believed in me. He as I was just a pain, a thorn in his side. I made him work for it. But he saw things in me that I didn't think was there. And he has my respect forever. I mean, the hope and the confidence that he had in me, that the patience, I just think that he is such an asset to this town, to this community, to this police department. He's now the deputy chief. And someday I would love to see him as chief, because that's what this town needs, is a man like him. And I just wanted to kind of sit on the soapbox a little bit and put my opinion out there before everybody else could, but I just want you to know that we have somebody for a chief. Okay.
I think, yeah, I appreciate that. And I
Yeah.
think that it's an education for our department, it's an education for the fire department, it's an education for our teachers and our educators and each of us. So I think that the more and more people that can react the way that, the experience that you had with Jeff, hopefully is something that he's shared with others. I'm sure that you've had conversations with him about, if like I said earlier, if we can reach one person, Jeff reached, so.
He did.
And, hopefully that's a testament to him and a testament to you for being a thorn.
Yeah.
All right, so PASA, People Against Substance Abuse.
Right.
There's contact information. How can we share this information, or?
Well, that was one of the things, I put together a PowerPoint for the board, and at the end of it was some suggestions about how we have a lot of information, how we're gonna start dispersing it out to the community, including information about PASA, because honestly, I appreciate the work that you two have done in stepping up and coming forward, because we're lucky, you're an asset to our community, you really are. You're both educated, experienced, empathetic, passionate, all those great things. And I did a lot of research to prepare that PowerPoint, just looking at communities around us to see what they're offering. And they have, coalition groups and whatnot, but they don't have a PASA that I could find. So we're really, really fortunate. But we just, as a board, need to decide what course of action we want to take, so to speak. And this is just one resource. I know that when Chase and I met with you, we talked about other organizations that you're familiar with, but that we can share with the community as well as a whole. And that does include Littleton Police Department, but just some other outreach organizations. So we just need to kind of bring it all together. So I didn't know, you don't have a website, but you have the phone number, you're on Facebook, and that sort of thing. So that's one thing we need to decide together.
Yeah, I think that something that Melissa and Jim did last year was do that PSA. And I think that if there's any way for you guys or any of us to work with you all to do something on LCTV, use the resources we have in front of us, right? Maybe you do the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, get it out there, and we can have the contact information out there and get that information out there. And it's our goal. You guys are the champions of the goal, but it's our goal as a board.
Absolutely. And the other thing, Governor Baker instilled some legislation last year that mandates that this is taught in the schools. And so Chase and I really need to, we spoke about going to the school
Yeah,
department.
we had talked about that,
We
and
really
then the
need-
school is, we need to organize that
Yeah,
and
it's the
figure out
Chapter
how that's
52
gonna
Acts
go.
of 2016. We really need to follow up with the school department to see what they're doing. Westford has a great program they've put into place, educating the kids about this.
Plagiarism in regards to things like this is
Right.
definitely encouraged.
Right.
I know that Meredith Perry and was it Julie Lord?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Natalie.
Okay.
they've worked with you to some degree to try to do something at the high school.
Right,
And the wellness committee at the high school is very eager and interested in working with us,
right,
to the whole community, not just at the high school, but the whole community.
Right.
Because, we can be reaching the kids at the high school, or in middle school, or in elementary school for that matter. But we need to stay in touch with the kids when they get out of high school, and we need to have some way to connect with them. And I think
Right.
connecting with the families, the support structure, I mean, it's really,
bringing it all together.
it's gonna take the entire community.
I think one of the things that Donna and Janessa really helped me understand, not just on an academic paper level, but on an interpersonal level, is the importance of addressing these needs in our community, not just at high school kids. Right, that this problem transcends age and generation in a way that other substance abuse problems have not.
Yes.
And so while that is vitally important, that is not a panacea. There are lots of things that need to be done in the community, like what you're doing, in conjunction with what we might do at the
Right,
school.
many
Because
different
then we
levels.
come at
Right.
it at lots of different levels.
Right. Excellent, so,
Obviously, you guys are doing a lot of work on this, and I
Right.
think we're all doing a lot of work behind the scenes, so this is good to bring this forward, and this is so important to kind of get out there and share with the community. If the board's okay with kind of pushing it back at you guys to kind of make some
oh, absolutely.
next steps?
Sure, we have an opportunity to have a little questions or input
Oh,
with these
absolutely,
folks?
yeah, absolutely.
First of all, thanks, all around thanks to Cindy and Chase and our board for making this issue. The phrase came up earlier as a budget orphan. Well, this is the sort of issue that if somebody's not promoting it, it just kind of falls beneath the surface. So it's important both at the town level that we have people that are leading it, but it's more important that come from the community, people do this, generate the interest, the focus that we need. So Donna and Janessa, both of you, thank you. My second teaching job out of college was at a program that used to be right here in Littleton. It was wonderfully successful, Alpha Omega. Joe would remember his older brother Peter was very much involved with that program, and it was a terrific success. It was a DYS affiliate. It was a residential school. It was all for, that place was for boys. It was down in Fort Pond, high school age, and just by virtue of their interaction with the court system, almost all of them had drug issues and family issues, and they all go hand in hand. And then educational issues. There, it's like check all the boxes. They're all tied together, and it was terrifically successul because it was intensive integration of counseling and education in a structured forum. But I think back at it now, one thing that was, even though we enjoyed support from the town, all the residents were from other towns. So kids from our towns were probably getting arrested, getting into the system, being shipped off somewhere else. So, meanwhile, we're hosting, 16 or 18 kids from different communities. So, as successful as it was, I think what might have been lost in that kind of approach to it was that, there's somebody else's children, somebody else's problems, but our own, kids in town have the same challenges and need the same set of support. Unfortunately, that program, fell victim to state government's wisdom that, short-term programs were much better and they didn't work, and they just, they defunded all these programs. So, now it's left back to society to deal with it, on the front lines. But I knew that was a successful model to the extent it was successful in its own setting, but in the community, what I see, or what I gleaned over the time, the most successful programs it can do are those that are peer-to-peer. It always seemed to me that anything that's, anything that's adult to peer, to child, or community to child, or a police officer to child, or advertisement to child, or take that a step further beyond child to anybody at risk of vulnerability is not as effective as peer-to-peer programs. So I wonder whether you've thought about that, encountered that, and whether any of your work is driven in that direction.
So my 18-year-old twins know, they're very educated in this. They remember a lot, but they're also educated. I know that my son has run into a few instances where he has reached out. And you're right, peer-to-peer is very effective.
I came across a couple tablefuls of kids after a recent,
Yep.
death in town tragedy, and they were, having pizza or beers or whatever, but they were, Coke, whatever the case was. But it seemed like the conversations there were much more
Yes.
important than anything I could say to them or someone else could say to them. And what do we do to make that more the norm?
Well, I think that we have different students in schools that volunteer for best buddies and things like that. Maybe there probably is students out there that would like to be involved in being a peer support for someone that's struggling and being that person that they can go to. I think peer-to-peer support is very important.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
But I think that if we open it up, I think that people would volunteer a little.
I think a lot of
I don't mean to put you on the spot, it's obvious,
No.
but I just think that by observation and logic, that seems to be, that's something we gotta focus on. And another point, and I realize other folks have things to point out, but I wanted to get your reaction. I know you've formed locally, and you have some sort of relationship with the police department, right? Or at least a good
Yes, I
working
do.
relationship. Okay. Well, Chief King and I will both happen to be at a function last week with the district attorney from Middlesex County, Marion Ryan, and she made me aware of efforts that their office are involved in. I was surprised, in the fragmented way we get our news these days. I guess I'm not plugged into the right channels to even be aware of what their office is doing, which is largely partnerships with business and not-for-profit organizations specific to the opioid crisis, going out and finding organizations like yours, working with them, sharing with you resources they have, making sure that things get out there. And what stuck in my mind, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, they have enough data to show that in certain areas where programs have been effective, they can track year to year, and it's a morbid statistic, but just from like opioid deaths in our area. I think she said we were, tracking downward somewhat, so, that may not be specific to Littleton, but, the speech was given in Westford. But if there are things out there working to make this, demonstrably effectively on a downward decline rather than upward, other places in the county, she said, were dramatically shooting up. So what's happening out there? Yeah. Well, these, if any of these programs are having effect that can be shown, then, how do we find out about them and make them work here?
I think that there's a whole different line of different treatments that may work for you. But what works for you is not going to work for you. So you have to find your
Well, I'm just saying,
correct way.
if there's success models out there, I would advise you to get in touch with the district attorney's office, which is there. Matt, wouldn't you say she's there to, help give you guidance, her office, and resources you may not be aware of, and plug you into some programs that have been proven to work in other communities. And I just, in a final thank you, I just say those 2 points. One is the peer-to-peer, and two is they've been tracking success in certain areas. Let's find out what they're doing. And, the DA's office seemed to have a bit of a handle on it, so why not work with them?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Janessa said on, what works for one might not work for another. There is really no silver bullet.
Yep.
And that's why this, I don't see this ever going, I hope it does drop off of our goals.
Right.
Right.
I think that it's going to be an ongoing thing. Year to year, it's going to just keep evolving, and we're going to find new contacts and new resources, new techniques.
But let's be tougher on ourselves. Let's start tracking it. Let's see,
No,
how
it's a great
successful
idea.
are we getting,
I think that as we track it and we identify, well, the DA's doing this, we can work with the police and fire, we can work with our new website design, and we
Right.
can actually have resources with the schools, and just every time we find something new, let's do a little bit of research on it, and let's dig into it a bit, and let's make sure that we're getting those resources out there any way that we can, so like with the wellness committee and through any outreach, park and rec, whoever's touching our community. There's going to be any number of resources out there that we can replicate and duplicate. Joe, do you have a comment?
Just quickly, I certainly want to thank you for what you do and the efforts you're putting out there. I mean, without people like you, then we'd be at a loss. And people don't realize how important it is. Going back with what Mr. Glavy said about Omega, I taught there for 2 summers. It's too bad those programs went away. But you, Chase, and mentioned that you had brought up a point. We all know it's true. It's just not a certain age group. It's out there. You know the proof of that. And I think we all see someone who's a friend, a distant friend, a family member that's affected by this, try to do it on their own sometimes, and they can't do it. They don't know where to look to. That's why I think this is so important what you're doing, because there are people out there that are trying to grasp this thing. They don't know how to do it themselves. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Any further, Chase? All right. So just as far as an action moving forward.
Right, so,
Come back and see us soon.
right, yeah, so we'll,
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of actions forward on this goal overall, I've been sitting on a letter that Cindy and I have drafted. Cindy's given me comments, and I wanted to wait for this to go through so we could have this discussion. Essentially to send to our state and federal representatives saying, Littleton has needs in this area too, just like lots of towns and cities throughout the Commonwealth and throughout the country, and to not necessarily advocate for specific funding, but to advocate for opioid awareness and destigmatization being an important component of what we are asking them to do. So the ask is not quantitative, but it is policy level. That's great. We'll circulate that after that.
Yeah.
right.
Good.
Perhaps we can schedule a few minutes next meeting to discuss that.
Yeah, sure. He's on it. You got that? Next meeting we'll talk about.
Next meeting, next regular meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kibble family, for coming out,
Thank you.
supporting Mom. Cindy and Chase, thank you very much for, I know you guys have spent a lot of time working on this as a whole, and bringing in Donna and Janessa is very, very valuable to us.
I should be fair here, Cindy's carrying the lion's share of the burden, so thank you very much.
We're gonna regroup, we'll regroup on this, Jason.
I think we've doing some good stuff.
We are doing
Yeah,
some good
there's more
stuff.
to do for me.
We just need to, we have some follow-up to do with the school department,
Yeah.
follow-up to do with John and Janessa, definitely in the morning.
Get that letter done.
Yeah.
Getting the letters
Keep moving.
great, and, so we'll just keep
Right.
moving forward.
So, well, let's go right to member updates. Start down, Mr. Glavy, do you have anything you'd like to?
Real simple. We got the opportunity earlier to acknowledge and give due praise to Detective Sergeant Pablo Fernandez for his service representing Littleton and doing our country's work in Puerto Rico, helping to recover from the disasters down there, but also the Light Department has had a crew down in Florida, and they've done this yeoman's work before. And I wish I had the names of who went down there, but I want the community to know how much we appreciate what they have done representing us, and what they continue to do to help those in need, and to show that Littleton's a willing partner to anybody who needs a hand.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for bringing that up. Cindy?
I just wanted to thank the Littleton Athletic Booster Association and the Friends of the Littleton VFW for putting together the Veterans Appreciation Night at Alumni Field last Friday night. That was a great event, and really nice tribute. There was 30 veterans that participated from Maynard and Littleton. It was a great Great event, there's an awesome picture on the front, that the Independent took on the website, which was wonderful, and I just wanted to thank, there was a fundraiser at the VFW following the football game, and I wanted to thank Brian St. Gelais from the fire department. He made this awesome set, a cornhole board set that was raffled off at that event, which was really nice, and we appreciate the support of the fire department.
Good deal.
Two things. One, essentially, so the board is aware, the last Conservation Commission meeting, I went to that in particular to sort of see where the Workers' Federal Credit Union was. I think Keith circulated an email earlier this week from the attorney representing workers, and I did in fact to suggest to workers that it might make sense at some point for them to come in and give us a general update as to what they're doing and what they're planning and what they're looking at. Certainly I know I've gotten some questions there that I'm not necessarily able to answer, so.
Including economic impact.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really the whole shebang, not just the specific development matter, but, you know, what are they proposing to bring to town and what is it going to be and look like? And,
Yeah.
you know, I think they're farther along in the process than when they were last here, about 8 months ago? So, a bit less than a year. So that was number one. Number two, I wanted to recognize the work that First Robotics is doing, and I'm very excited because along with Connor Reardon at Light and Electric, one of the engineers from Green International that does a lot of our peer review, Bob Zimmerman, Aaron Healy, we're judging a middle school Lego First Robotics version this coming Saturday. So the town support for Littleton Robotics has been incredible, and my kids are a little bit too little for it yet, but to even see, you know, Light and Electric is going to show up and help us with that, our peer reviewing engineer, all of that stuff. That's awesome. It's good stuff. They're doing really neat stuff.
Yeah. Light and Water does a lot for our community. They're a great partner. They do, like Paul mentioned, they jump in whenever there's, you know, when Sandy hit the New Jersey coast. I think they went down to Houston when Houston got hit hard a couple years ago. And as you mentioned, they went down to Florida this past couple of weeks ago. So I'm just going to piggyback on the robotics thing. So the robotics team is looking for a place to kind of set up shop and do their builds, their practices, and I'm working on a couple of locations potentially, and I think that there's a pretty good likelihood that we'll be able to get a space. But if there's anybody out there that has a space anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 square feet that the team would be able to utilize probably from like 5 to 9 as they get close to competitions, and probably 5 to 9, 5 nights a week, and maybe some weekend times. But if there's some warehouse space, we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of vacant space. If there's someone out there that has warehouse or light industrial space that they'd be willing to donate or provide to the robotics team, you can reach out to the town administrator's office and get a hold of me if you'd like, and I'll try to put you in touch with Katie Bonner and the folks at the robotics team to try to help them facilitate that use, so practice space and build space. Mr. Knox, do you have anything to add as a member update?
Well, just quickly, what we would talk about too, I've asked 1 or 2 people, and it seems the problem I have is if the vacant thing has to do with insurance and other things, so some people are reluctant to do it, and that's unfortunate. So I'm jumping in it late, so I missed that.
Just so I don't, so they are a 501c3, so there is a charitable component to it. And they do have their own insurance, that they could get a rider or a binder or whatever a landlord would require of them. So it alleviates some of that concern.
The only other thing I might have mentioned already, this Saturday trunk or treat by the Park and Rec, the parade for the kids, and organizations and companies will have candy at 300 King Street. You know, our company will. I'll be there as the Mayor Munchkin Land, so.
We represent. All right. Good deal. So we'll move on with that. Move on to item 8 on the agenda, please. Special town meeting assignment of articles to selectmen. We should all have an updated version that was handed out by Anthony just prior to the meeting. with some assignments. We do have some articles that,
These are ones that we received at volunteers. for.
right, so,
So we still have others to fill.
so bills of prior years and budget amendments, Mr. Knox has volunteered to present those at town meeting. I said that I'd do number 3, debt exclusion stabilization fund, and rescind unused borrowing authority. Ms. Napoli stepped up for 5, 6, and 7, which are the zoning amendments and establishing affordable housing and inclusionary housing. To put it out of order. Article 8, amend FY 2018 personal exemption amounts to 100%. Anybody have any particular interest in taking that on?
I can do that.
Sort of fits well with the other things.
Yeah, I
you
can do
presented.
that too.
I was kind of looking at Chase and Paul because
Oh.
we had already stepped up, but
Oh.
sorry, that's all right. The Hartwell property donation, so actually, number 9, transfer of ownership of the Cooper Farm parcel. I'll take on that just with the connectivity to, I was on the board when that was negotiated and the host community agreement was written.
I'm happy to take on 10 and 11.
Jesus. All right, so 10 is the Hartwell property donation for West Lawn Cemetery, and 11 is tax title properties, butter land. I appreciate it, that would fit well with you, Chase, so thanks for stepping up for that. Number 12 is supplemental FY 2018 capital items from available funds. The school curb and sidewalk repairs is $99. I can step up and take that. Paul, you good with the master plan implementation?
Sure.
Okay. Zoning amendment, temporary moratorium on marijuana establishments. Anybody have any particular interest in that, or you want that? 14 is agricultural commission, amend the town bylaw to accept the state statute. Anybody?
I'll take the,
Is the AdCom going to do a presentation on that?
I don't know, but I'll contact him and find out.
They're not going to do a
I'm
presentation?
not aware that
Okay.
they're doing one.
So I'll give the brief summary and they, put them on the spot for answering detailed questions.
There you go. Number 15, accept state statutes on speed limits, Mass General Law, Chapter 90.
I can do that.
Very big. Mr. Knox took 16, accept layout of McIntosh Lane, which we just voted on. Good.
On
So I think
16,
we're
Mr.
good.
Chairman, we have Selectman Knox's name, but we have Selectman Napoli checked off, so just to get clarification on that.
On
It
16?
was Joe.
It was me.
It was Joe.
It is Joe,
Not it.
okay.
Not it.
Not it.
All right, thank you very much, folks. So now we have, that's the assignment. Next, we have the,
Should we mention that town meeting is next Monday as well?
yeah. So for those who aren't aware, town meeting is next Monday night at the middle school gym. Come one, come all.
7 o'clock.
7 PM. All right, so we have some, couple of articles we need to,
Yeah, Article 1, we actually do have an unpaid bill of $1,197.50 for the printing of last year's town report, which didn't get paid.
and the tax bill.
Yeah, and also Article 11, you need to discuss and adopt a recommendation on.
You want to take those separately, or you want to have the discussion?
I think we should probably take them separately, because I think there'll be a little bit to discuss on
I think
it.
that's good advice. All right, so, entertain a motion for recommendation on Article 1, bills of prior years, just amending that, adding the 1197.50.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to support the article on October 30th, 2017, special town meeting directive in preparation of the motions to be moved and seconded by the board. Article 1, bills of prior years.
Second.
All right, as amended for 1197.50. Moved and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, good. Got that recommendation. Now, Article 11, tax title properties, abutter land, sales, conservation. We need to,
You'd had a robust discussion at the last meeting, and you referred the matter to town council of whether some of the proposed solutions you're thinking about might be within the scope of the article as posted. And in particular, you were looking at whether you could carve out an additional amount. Let me call it up here. For, on the Newtown Road lot, whether you could carve out an additional amount of the property, of the portion of that property which the article says would go to the Conservation Commission. Could you have it go for another use? And the opinion of council is that that would be outside the scope, that such a motion would be outside of the scope of that article as amended, as posted rather, so that you're left with a number of options, including not doing anything with that parcel, or or not doing anything with that portion that's proposed to go to the Conservation Commission, or to take no action on the article. So.
And to give some additional background to that, I guess, given that really our choices here are either the article goes forward as written, or we, in order to give the Johnson and Jeffries families the opportunity to apply under the abutter program for a portion of that land, we would take out the section that transfers the remaining portion to conservation. In the meantime, let's say the Jeffries family, you've submitted an amended application for a 10 by 120 foot section, is that correct?
It's 10 by 126.
10 by 126. So you'll note that the corridor is 40 feet wide. They're asking for 10 feet of that 40-foot corridor to be transferred as part of the abutter lot sales program, which of course we can't do during town meeting. So the only remedy to that, if we wanted to consider their application, would be to remove the Conservation Commission component of that. And I would say for the time being, though, our choice to remove it wouldn't necessarily be binding on adding that back in later.
Well, for the immediate issue would be what motion, since it's the Selectmen's article, what motion do you want to bring forward?
Right.
And if, for example, you wanted to bring forward a motion that said that you only would carve out those 4,800 square foot lots, one or both of them. We only really have one party that's interested at 416 Newtown Road, if you wanted to carve that one out, for example, as well as carving out the lot at the, on Elm Road. So to just do those and do nothing else is an option. I think it would be best to not have a protracted debate on town meeting floor about this article. And I think the leaner and meaner your motion is to accomplish something, the more likely it is that you might get a 2/3 vote to pass it. My fear is that we'll get into a long protracted discussion, you won't have a 2/3 vote, and we will have spent, half an hour or an hour without, because it's not, in this form, it's not resolved. It's not a final resolution.
May I suggest what I see the path forward for this town meeting is to remove the Conservation Commission, or the conservation land component of that, although I personally have I don't love the 10 by 120 foot, 10 by 126 foot lots, but I can live with it. I think it's a reasonable compromise. It meets what I see as the value of that corridor. So we remove for the time being the transfer of the land, the remaining balance of the land to conservation, and we revisit it, we consider the Jeffries application with the intent, the non-binding intent to proceed with the transfer of the remaining portion to conservation once we've considered those additional applications. But as far as the town meeting is concerned, we simply remove the conservation piece for now.
You would make an affirmative pitch on that? I mean, you've got the article, and
I would
I'll defer to you on this, but I don't want, but the last thing I want to have happen is that folks who were anticipating this going to conservation, hearing that it isn't immediately, withdraw their support on that basis.
And I think the easiest way to make that argument is to affirm our intention to ultimately transfer it to conservation, but for administrative reasons and for consideration of additional applications that are currently in and finite in scope, and that is that the Jeffreys have applied for a 10-foot section of
Right,
that.
right.
We would like to remove that for now and consider it at the upcoming town meeting. Now, Conservation has not voted on this and certainly could choose to oppose that point. Like I said, I don't love it. I think this strikes a compromise. I don't know which way Conservation
You intend to
will go.
approach them between now and then?
I did approach them.
They walked
It
the
went-
property on Friday.
They
did
walked the property on Friday. They very much wanted to see it. And they are going to call a meeting, post a meeting for the night of town meeting, at which point they can consider the motion that we've advanced and decide how they would like to proceed. I am willing to go up and say, I think this is a reasonable compromise.
Good. Well, I personally appreciate that, and I think that's a wise way to go about it. And in your presentation, don't lose sight of the fact of something that may not be obvious to everybody, that either way, it's still town property. It's not going anywhere, you know.
And
We
that's
can
really the
always do this to it.
In the meantime, it remains town property.
Right.
It's not, no one's losing anything.
And the other thing that I think we need to emphasize is all this affords us the opportunity to do is consider the abutters application. There's
Right.
nothing
Right.
foregone about the additional abutters application, though I think it strikes a reasonable compromise. If there's a substantial and compelling, public input process that points something else to us otherwise, we very much are in a position to consider that.
And that application would in fact have to go to town meeting in the spring anyway.
And that would also have to go to town meeting, so town meeting will get lots of opportunity to consider this 2/100ths of an acre.
I certainly like the approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good compromise.
agree.
I think,
That allows the current people who first applied to get.
to move forward, potentially,
forward.
they have to get 2/3, but it allows them the opportunity to move forward.
So how do we make that in the form of a
So,
motion?
what form does the motion take there?
So why did you, Jeffrey's here, and actually the town moderator's here as well. Do any of you have any input based on our discussion?
I'd want to see the revised motion before I,
Make comment?
yeah, the original draft motion, I think, was beyond the scope of the article.
The original draft motion?
Yes.
Yes, agreed.
Right, this becomes much simpler in the sense that we're simply striking.
We would need then to have the revised motion before Thursday morning's meeting where both the moderator and the town council would be present, right? Keith, is that?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Hey,
you'll vote.
Conservation has requested the revised motion language as well for them to consider in anticipation of their meeting on Monday.
Well, we'll certainly have it well before then, yeah.
I would think they would want it several days in advance.
Yeah.
So I think, just looking at the proposed motion, would essentially just cut it off after, to see if the town will vote to add the following list of properties, the tax title abutter list, lot sale program established by Article 10, November 14th, 2011 special town meeting, A, an up to 4,800 square foot portion of parcel U-17-175-0 comprised of 8,000 square feet abutting 11 Elm. So Elm is
Right.
able to be
So
taken
A
care
is
of.
good.
B,
Yeah.
an
It's
up
on
to
the
4,800 square foot portion of the .84 acre parcel U-14-117-0 abutting 416 Newtown Road, and C, same U-17-0 abutting 414, and then just basically cut the
Period.
motion off there, yeah,
Yeah, so it's A, B, and C, period.
right.
That would be the motion.
You want to
And-
look at it, Tim? Can you see
If
it?
you could send it to me, that'd be great. That's the article.
Yeah, that's the article, so we would just stop after C, A, B, and C, and then leave out.
The semicolon would end it.
Leave out the
And.
description of the conservation property.
But you transfer the balance of the .84 acre parcel to the care, custody, and control of conservation. So that end part of the motion would be eliminated, for now.
While it may be, in the short term, may convolute things a little bit, I would not be opposed to putting up a red line version of the article for people to consider, as in the, for a town meeting to consider, because there's going to be a discrepancy there, and I think it's better to simply put that in front of people.
Yeah, we can put the.
And explain the
Yeah.
difference rather than.
Yeah, it's a good idea, because
Going
what,
out with that article.
yeah, what we can do
Exactly,
is,
and
yeah, we'll have a one-page handout like this with the proposed motion.
You're the one who's gonna be up there doing the dance, or whatever you want.
Paul, I think strongly disagrees when I take on that point.
I can put that language in its entirety in the motion and strike out the portion that we're not doing so that folks can see what the change is.
And
I'll do that.
exactly, and
Yeah.
then we can see what the change is,
Sure.
and we can explain why the change is what the
Fully
change
expect
is.
to do this.
Right, there's nothing.
And the moderator will see that we're within the four corners, we've just taken out a corner or two.
That's right, right. Always easier to subtract than to add,
Yeah.
go beyond
Right.
the limits, right.
So based on that conversation, you're comfortable with it, Tim?
I want to see the final language, but, yeah, I'm more comfortable with it than it was, yeah.
Okay. Do we need any further debate or discussion? You comfortable with that? All right, entertain that motion.
So moved?
Yeah?
I know, I was just, oh my God, where do you even go with that? Second.
Moved and seconded? Any
I
further
like that,
discussion?
Chase.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
It'll look like,
Let me get away with that, but.
It was just red, so I'm
Tim,
gonna.
it'll
That was quick.
look like that, basically.
Wow. We need to get Keith a new set of
It'll be,
crayons.
it'll be a little neater, but, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I mean, I suppose we didn't recognize that Jeffrey's there. Do you folks?
So that's why I opened up, if they did have anything to say.
If it's already closed, I just wanted to understand, this looks great to us. If for some reason it failed, just, for some reason that people just say, don't want to give this land to anybody else, all of them together, how would that affect spring? I mean, it just would never go up again, would it?
Oh, it could come back again.
It could, okay.
Sure.
If the article doesn't get a 2/3 vote, then nothing happens.
Okay.
And we could work to go back to the drawing
Right.
board and work with the butters and.
And since we've already applied, I guess we would just, if you need us to resubmit or something like that for May, if not, then I guess we're set for May.
I don't think there's any expiration on that, is there, statute?
No.
No.
Great.
Certainly wouldn't.
No, we made up the rules.
As we go along. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
All right. So I believe we're on to number 9, correct?
Yep.
9A is the police chief search process. So, the town administrator, the assistant town administrator, Chase, and myself have done some effort here, and appreciate the input and some of the background information on some of the assessment centers that was included in our packets. This is on the agenda to, I guess, to start the conversation, that, that there is a process that we will follow to hire our next police chief. As Chief alluded to, in 7 months? 7 months' time. He's going to be on the outside looking in. And always welcome. And just wanted to establish some parameters around which we would exercise the process. So we open up discussion, but it is one of our goals to go through the hiring process. And Keith and Anthony, if you have anything to add, I know Anthony's been doing some work with assessment centers and doing some of the research for us. For the assessment centers, you want to add something there, Anthony? Or?
Just to further explain, so what's proposed here tonight is, obviously one of your goals this year is to replace the police chief upon his retirement. So what the chairman was alluding to is the process would be, one, to set up a preliminary screening committee. That committee would, there would be 2 Board of Selectmen. There'd be a representative from the police union. There'd be the FinCom's rep to the personnel board, and 3 community members at large. Also, we would be looking to hire an executive search committee that would guide us through this process. On the third page of that memo is a timeline that, in order to stay on track, the champions have come up with this timeline, which would basically, tonight is inviting applicants to submit for the at-large members of the community. In your November meeting, you'll appoint that committee, those three community members at large. Will also interview and hire and select a firm that will guide us through this process. In December, we'll post the advertisement. January, the posting would close. In February, we would have the first round of the interviews by the search committee. In March, the assessment centers for the finalists will happen, as well as the final interviews before the Board of Selectmen. April, hopefully a new police chief will be selected. Offered. And to start officially upon Chief King's retirement in July. So that's what's before you tonight, as a proposed plan.
Questions, comments?
First comments, great work, great thanks. These things are not put together, they may look like they're put together easily, but I know from past experience that they aren't. So for all the behind-the-scenes work that Mr. Chairman and Chase and Anthony and Keith and whoever else was involved, great work. I think it looks like it gives us an opportunity to get both a professional outside assessment as well as public input, and I would just raise two notes that are supportive of the proposal, but I just think it deserves some emphasis. One is that I think it's important that we do as much outreach as we can to make people aware that we're seeking input for the citizen positions. They can be very key before we make those appointments. And two, that before we engage assessment centers and the professionals, that we consider that internally and be open-eyed about that. It shouldn't come as a shock that a lot of those, there's a lot of difference of opinion in, police philosophy, and some of these outfits may be pushing a particular, theory rather than another. I think we might want to be mindful of that. And if I'm going astray, Chief, I just throw it in your direction. You're on your way out. You can speak freely.
When you tell me to speak, I will certainly speak my mind on this hiring issue.
Well, I'm just specific to the issue of assessment centers.
Certainly, you're absolutely correct. It very much varies on company to company sometimes, and certainly there's a lot of different philosophies out there.
Right.
So you're absolutely correct.
Okay, so yeah, I think having three members at large, I think is a good way to keep it open. And certainly, any one of us or anybody out there can solicit folks that they think would be a good asset in addition to a search committee.
Whatever other means we have, social media, all the rest of that. I mean, I see the scribes are scribing away there. Good to see you.
I'll tell you, Paul, we came to the recommendation of three members at large through a fair bit of discussion, and three was chosen because it was, we had originally looked at a more restrictive process with more particular definitions of one member with this background, one member with that background. We actually stepped back and said, no, what we really want is as many members from the public as
I'm in
possible.
complete agreement with you.
And we want the
You
ability
can overdo
to-
these things, yeah.
Exactly. We want the ability to structure the most diverse and representative committee possible. And we
Right.
felt like three members at large, without any particular requirements, was the best way to go about establishing that committee.
We can, in our appointments,
No, I
we
mean,
can
Take this as a thumbs up. If I didn't like what I was seeing, I'd be rambling on still. This is good work.
But to your point, Paul, about other public input processes, we very much, when worked on structuring this recommendation, envisioned as public of a process as possible, particularly once the finalists are announced. Obviously, a lot of it can't be done outside of executive session until then.
So there'll be a formal posting for that search committee?
This is first request right now, so folks that are interested in being a member of the screening committee, what do we call it, executive search committee?
Preliminary screening.
Preliminary screening committee.
If we're looking to make appointments in November, what November meeting dates do we have? We probably ought to.
Yeah, you meet on the 6th and the 13th.
13th is about as early as we could do it, I would think.
Did we talk about a
Well,
special?
we're looking at a special because special meeting because the 13th is the classification hearing. And the thought was that if you had, that you probably need to have some quality time to.
Are we already looking at an additional pre-classification meeting on the prior
the
Thursday?
9th, yes.
On the 9th.
That's a one-ticket item that night.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, the real issue is how long you're gonna give for people to apply, because even for a meeting on the
Right.
13th, there's almost no.
Well, I'm just thinking pragmatically, we're already being called out on the 9th and the 13th, so those are.
Forget about the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You available?
Yeah. I'm not cooking
Check his
this year.
pockets.
I have some eggnog.
Assuming we'd have to do the legal notice, put in the
Yeah,
newspaper.
yeah, I
and
mean,
then-
a notice that we play, the soonest that a notice is gonna appear in the newspaper is a week from Friday.
Right.
So that's,
See, I don't see that as being, I mean, if we're looking at mid-November to seat this committee, that's 3+ weeks away. And granted, we may have to, there may be a week lag between posting and notice, but that still gives us 2 weeks, or it gives the public 2 weeks to apply.
Yeah, okay, if everyone's comfortable with that, that's fine.
And maybe it's not that exact day.
We have
may
another
need a separate
opportunity to
meeting.
announce it publicly at town meeting next week, too.
Yeah,
That's a big
and
part of my
and
thinking
If I
as
can add
well.
on that, what we're doing at town meeting is we're gonna advertise the other board vacancies that we have. We're
I
gonna
love
put it
that
up
idea.
on the board, and then during the breaks, or the votes, and when the moderator says we need to have a little time, they'll be posted again up there. That's a great captive audience, so we're gonna do that vacant boards, and I was thinking that we'd also throw this in there as a good advertisement.
Okay.
And I think we're gonna want to, I doubt we're only gonna get 3 applicants, right? So it's not just gonna be a pro forma seating of the 3 applicants we get. So we may want some time to go through those separate meetings, seems to make sense.
And the applications are going to be online? Or what are
The
they
same
gonna-
process we always do
It's
for
a town board
any,
application.
So we'll have some at town meeting, they'll be online.
Okay.
Chief, do you have something to add?
Well, Paul said, I guess, I can kind of say my piece here. I would also like the board to discuss doing what many other towns have done and just follow the chain of command and appoint your deputy chief as chief of police. Town of Acton has recently done that. Town of Tingsboro did it. Town of Air did it. That is not outside the norm to follow inside your chain, to follow. The board, I think 8 weeks ago, in a meeting, discussed how getting everyone ready for ascension to the next step in the process. And we certainly have done that in the department through the training that the deputy chief has had. Obviously, you've seen his face much more since I've announced my retirement. I've given him a lot more duties to get him, up to speed, if you will, on his job. And I fully believe that, for speaking for me, who's been here for, it'll be since May 1st, 1982, when I closed my tenure, it's nice to know that you can work your way up from patrolman, because that's where I started as a patrolman, and I worked my way up through every rank in the department, as the Deputy Chief Patterson has, and as many of the other members of the department do, that after tonight, I left for 45 minutes to meet with the department. We were all having a small celebration afterwards for the accreditation. And, I honestly believe that instills a lot of support within from the community and from the board, that they look at the department and realize that somebody can start here. And I don't believe, and if the board really wants to do a process and everything, then I would ask you just to do it to internal candidates, and to let people within the department apply if you want to do that process. And if you find no one there, then you go outside. I believe you don't go outside the department unless you need change in the department, or unless you need, you're looking for something different. In the case of Deputy Chief Patterson, I believe he knows this community. I believe he's raised 2 children in this community. And to be quite frank, he understands millennials far better than I do, because he's got 2 of them that are that age. He is the one I send out to talk to my millennials, because I have the Tom O'Day way of thinking, and that doesn't always work well with millennials. But I honestly believe you don't understand. The pride I had, the fact that I worked my way up through the ranks here and was able to become chief and retire as chief. And I think John Kelly would tell you the same thing, and I think Tom O'Day would tell you the same thing. To be the last 3 chiefs have come from within. Tom O'Day was appointed with no process. John Kelly, there was a process, and he became chief. But if the town wants to do a process, and I understand that reasoning also, I would just request that you do it with internal candidates only. Thank you.
Appreciate your input. Thank you, Chief. Well, I still think it's important to involve the public in this. I mean, we are the executive board, if you will.
I take to heart what Chief King just said, and, we're not operating in a vacuum. But I do like the process you put together, and I wonder why they couldn't coexist, whether we assemble this committee, and maybe one of the first orders of business is whoever's on there, if it's you guys and 3 members of the public and the other folks involved, take a look. Is there enough compelling reason to look outside, or should we be satisfied inside? And, charge you folks with making that one of your first, chores. And, if there's enough interest, or, people feel that there's enough potentiality out there that we ought to open it up to the, world at large, fine. If not, then, I'd be very interested to hear what conclusions were reached by the committee, but I don't believe that is a reason not to appoint a committee or not to initiate the process as laid out.
I will concur with what Paul just said. I think a lot of what the chief has said is true, and the history of our department has shown that it has grown from within. A perfect example is the accreditation thing that was done today. How many officers showed up that didn't have to show up, how proud they are to be part of this department. That all came from within. So if we are going to do it, I'd do it the way you said and let that committee decide if they want to go external or keep it from within.
I mean, that committee may make a recommendation, but it's ultimately.
That's our decision.
It's not the committee's decision.
No.
It's your decision whether you go outside or inside.
But I'm all for giving them the charge of being, I rely heavily on the work that, and the deliberation that those folks conduct.
I mean, I will say in part for timeline, I think would rather see this process that's laid out just go forward as is, because 7 months seems like a lot of time, but it actually isn't that much time to go through this process. At the same time, recognizing that Deputy Chief Patterson absolutely has a stellar application to make. I mean, we saw it tonight when we were discussing opioid awareness and the significance that Deputy Chief Patterson has played. I think that in the long run, it adds a substantial amount of credibility to the choice, particularly if it's an internal choice, if they go through a competitive process. Because then it's not just stated that they're the best among a department the size of Littleton's, but they are objectively the very best. And that credibility, I think, is important for their long-term success as well. Notwithstanding, and I very much recognize your opinion, Chief.
Littleton has the recent example. You had strong candidates and internal candidates for fire chief.
Sure.
It was an open competitive process, though, where in that process, the two local internal candidates really
Rose to the
showed just how good they were in comparison to anyone else. And that, I think that process allowed us to have that much more comfort in that the person that was selected, the candidates that we had from within were the best candidates. And if there was anyone who doubted that, with that, the process, which was open to all, allowed you to prove that.
And I think that, to your point, it definitely, it lends to, it leads to the benefit of the ultimate candidate. And in this case, if it were Deputy Chief Patterson, we've made investments in him. We've showed that we trust him, and he's been acting chief when the chief has been out of town, and he's had to perform the duties of chief when Chief King hasn't been here. If in fact he is the candidate that comes to the top, and he's certainly, right now he's a front runner.
But in either scenario internal here, is there any reason we can't go ahead and appoint and adopt the process as proposed? And then I would just say that we should, personally, and maybe the board would, adopt that position formally, encourage the appointed committee to take a look at that as a first order of business. Otherwise, we've got the adopted, program as laid out. And if that's what the dialogue leads to, fine, we follow it through, and if the compelling argument comes back that, this, based on everything in front of us, why do that if we're pretty certain of what direction we're going? I don't know. I'd rather have a group of people sit down and discuss that rather than us make that decision right here now.
And to
I'm willing
make,
to-
and to make a recommendation, I think that the one thing you'd want to put in is that if you're tasking the committee to do something, it's to make a recommendation back to you
Right.
on whether you should have an internal or a competitive process.
Or whatever they recommend.
I would argue,
Or-
though, that the default
What
in
else is there?
that scenario should be to a competitive process. And the reason for that is that we've got 3 members from the committee, or of the committee, that are members at large from the public and don't necessarily have the context in which to evaluate a single candidate in a vacuum. So absent a strong, compelling, absolutely, it's got to be within the existing chain of command. We go outside.
Well, we have this process as proposed as a default, and if the committee comes back with a recommendation to do something, short or amended version of that, well, we're here to entertain it.
Further discussion? You in the back.
Let me say one other thing. I'm also not, as far as the search committees go and things of that nature, I believe you can do a better job yourself, to be quite honest with you. If you want to do an assessment center.
5 of us, you mean?
Well, the 5 of us, and also if you're going to go the route of, which sounds like you want to go the route of some sort of committee, if you will, to make a recommendation to the board. As Mr. Glavy said, I've seen it time and time again with these assessment groups that a lot of times they have either pet people in their pocket that they want to bring forward that apply in the process. I've just seen time and time again happen. Or they bring their philosophy forward, which may not be the philosophy that Littleton just goes with. So I would just be very wary about bringing in any of these outside groups, and if you do, like you said, you are under somewhat of a time crunch. I would just be very careful because, we've always used a certain assessment center to do our internal assessments because they do a good job for us and they listen to what I have said, or the department has said as far as what the town of Littleton is looking for. And that's my only caveat about, about those outside groups. I'm just wary of them.
So when you say outside groups, you're not talking about 3 members at large?
Oh, no,
You're
absolutely not. I'm
using
not talking about
the
any of that.
assessment
I'm
center
talking
outside
about
of the one that you used.
hiring a
The
group
consultant.
to come in and screen your resume, screen things like that. I believe you can do that. If you're gonna open it outside, or as I, hope, just internally, I believe you can screen those resumes, and I believe you can screen those people just as well as an outside group. You decide you do wanna hold an assessment center at some point, I guess You know, I would hope that you would bring me into that fold somewhere, so I can give you my opinions,
Sure.
you know, on those groups and things of that nature.
And we would, I mean, that would be something we'd put out to bid, frankly. And we would interview them. It would be just like hiring, you know, Gale Associates to design the field, or the architect to hire to build or design the fire station. So there'd be a process that would go through to hire that entity as well. And that would likely be something that would be recommended from the group of 7, and then come back to us to make a final decision on hiring a consultant.
Yeah, the one thing, we're using pronouns a lot here, and I think if we could be clearer that the group, we have a preliminary screening committee, which is the only entity that's allowed to conduct first-round interview in executive session. And that's sort of one of the reasons why you go through that process. The Board of Selectmen set up such a committee for that fire chief search process that I indicated. The second-round interviews were public. It happened to be that the 2 second-round candidates were both internal. The full board didn't get to see the external candidates that applied, and that the preliminary screening committee did not recommend to be brought forward. So if you set up a preliminary screening committee, one of the things that you could use it for is that first round of interviews to be held in executive session. Sometimes candidates will apply if they know that they, you know, don't have to risk losing the job they're in, because it's known that they're applying for another job. That's certainly how we conducted the assistant town administrator applications, for example. The other issue is whether and to what extent you hire an outside consultant who would assist in some part of the process. It could be a little, it could be more than a little. It could simply be to conduct an assessment center of your finalists. It need not necessarily be screening all the applications if you felt that the preliminary screening committee could perform that function. So there are a number of things that you can
Hire them for.
Reach a conclusion on. But I think the most important thing is to get started with the committee, the preliminary screening committee, where you'll have community representation, and then they can talk about it more and bring you specific recommendations for you to decide ultimately how the process goes.
As far as hiring an outside consultant, would we have the ability to essentially choose from an à la carte menu? You know, we would like your help, supposing we go with a completely external process, we would like your help posting the job and making sure we get as many good applicants as possible. We don't want you screening.
I think that's
That'll be,
important.
you know,
Yeah.
so we can go through that.
Yes, Selectman Gory, I think that's important that we identify what exactly we want them to do, because then we can ask for price quotations. I don't think, based on what we've seen come in so far, that we would have to go out to bid on it. I think we could get 3 price quotations based on apples for apples, so it just has to be determined exactly what we want them for. Be specific and ask for quotes. It's ranged from $45,000 to $15,000. So I think somewhere in that range is what you'd be looking at.
Okay. It's a pleasure of the board. Start the process?
I'd be in favor of the motion as written, with the acknowledgement of all the discussion that we've just had here. It doesn't change the motion in my mind, and we can.
I don't see anything in the motion or.
And the target date would be the 13th, is that what we're looking at?
Well, I think we can choose a date on or around there, right? I would advocate for, going back to the date, I would advocate, as Chuck suggested, for a separate posted meeting to evaluate the applicants. Because A, I anticipate a reasonable number of applicants, and B, there's frankly just a lot of other things going on.
It's time consuming, yeah, it's,
Right.
if we have other items on the
Well,
agenda,
of
we're
course,
not gonna
the
get to.
risk you're on having meetings agendering important items outside of the regular meeting date is you're not necessarily, all of us have conflicts at other times too, so I have no idea what date's being considered, so I don't know whether or not that'll be an issue for me or anyone else, but I think we all know we've got a meeting on the 13th, it's in everybody's calendar.
Right.
What
The
else is
13th
on that
and then
agenda
the-
that's so important?
The 13th and then the 27th?
But what's our current agenda for the 13th look like?
Well, there's any number of follow-up items from town meeting. If you wanted to clear, I think we set aside 90 minutes of the classification hearing.
Which we never use.
Au contraire. No,
Which we've once used.
You've gone, no, you routinely go over
No,
that.
no. Well, not since we only split it up 1 year, I guess, with the explanation part. I don't know, I just think that's, if it's backward thinking in my mind, if this is the important issue, shouldn't that be dominating the regular agenda and extraneous issues be pushed off to a secondary date? I don't know. Whatever.
You can-
Spoke enough of that subject.
You can do that. We could say you do this, I would suggest that you do this fresh. You should set the classification, you should set the tax rate fresh. So if we have that hearing, say at 7 o'clock on the 13th, you could, I don't know, how are you going to feel at 8:30?
Well, my bigger concern are how are some of our applicants going to feel it? I mean, imagine someone who's older who goes to bed at 8:30 at night and would prefer to sit on the committee. I would hate to push it too late, I guess.
You think that's enough time to get the applicants in? 2 weeks? Was it 2 weeks?
To the point that Paul made earlier about Thursday the 9th, I mean, Thursday the 9th would be better, except that it doesn't, because you're out and you've agreed to that date for a preparation for, for public information for the classification. The problem is that I don't know that that's going to be viewed as sufficient time, because the ad will have only appeared the previous Friday.
Right.
What's the next meeting after the 13th?
December.
After Thanksgiving, it's December
It's in
4th.
December.
Oh,
You could do it that Monday after Thanksgiving.
27th?
20th?
Yeah. The 27th.
Why not the 20th?
Week of Thanksgiving.
It's the week of Thanksgiving.
Are we not here?
They'll go away.
Well, let's see if people are going away. Anyone going away that week?
no.
No?
You know what, I think maybe the 20th is the right date, and then there may actually be candidates that can't make it that date, and
If you can all make the 20th, I'd suggest you pick the 20th.
yeah, I mean, I think I'd tend to lean that way versus trying to jam it in.
And then I think we should make it clear, though, that we're still inviting applicants, even if for some reason they can't make the 20th.
I think
I
you.
don't
I
know,
can-
I
I
don't know
can't
what
be
we'll
interviewed.
do, but,
We can go based on the resume, but they're just gonna have to do a really good job filling out their application.
exactly, they're gonna have to fill out a thorough application.
So that
So
is,
based on the 20th, then, Keith, would our deadline be on the 15th to coincide with our agenda deadline?
For applicants, yeah, that makes sense.
Is that a Thursday? What day of
It's
the
a
week is that?
Wednesday. November 15th is a Wednesday. That allows us to get the information to the selectmen on the 16th. Doesn't
Yeah,
have
we'll
to be.
Yeah, you'll get your packets on Thursday, the 16th,
Thursday.
so we should set the deadline at Wednesday. From now on, we're in order to
Absolutely.
comply with Thursday, we've got to post the agendas on Wednesdays, we've got to have all the deadlines be Wednesdays prior to your Monday meeting.
Once we get used to it, we'll be used to it.
Yeah.
profound.
Mr. Chairman, while I'm being profound, if people, we might have some folks out here who came up to discuss this topic. I don't know if we, I can't, they're either that or hanging in for the minutes, and I'm doubting it's not the minutes.
Guess I'm saying, Katie?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
I guess, I
look at it, that.
Can we just get a name, because we
I'm
missed.
sorry, can you just state your name and address
Oh,
for the
sorry,
record?
Kate Hunt, 20 Murray Park Road. No, I just listening to Chief King, I think that there's gonna be a lot of time, effort, money put into this process. I agree that maybe putting people that have grown up in this town, worked through this town, know the community, know the seniors, they know the kids, they know the buildings, they know the properties, they've lived here, they've worked through here. I just think looking internally is probably a good option to start with. And if somebody's not qualified and we need to look externally, then we go ahead and do that. But it seems to me you're putting a lot of time and effort into looking outside the scope.
No, so that's, I respectfully disagree with you. I think what we're trying to do is make sure it's as open a process as possible.
Oh, no, I agree.
So that we're, we just want to make sure it's open. It's as open and there's as much input as possible, because frankly, we're just, well, not just, we got elected to this position, so we are the town fathers or members of the Board of Selectmen. So ultimately, it is our decision to make, but we want to get as much information as possible, and if through the process, like we did with the fire chiefs, the fire chief candidates, if there are 2 or 3 candidates that come internally and they are the ones that rise to the top through this process, by all means, they'll be the candidates that will be brought back for the interviews with this board, who are ultimately the hiring authority. So we just want to make sure as open a process as possible, so that whoever is chosen will have the input and support and success through that process. They'll be given the opportunity to succeed because they know that they were the one that was chosen and went through the process. No? No one's gonna...
What, you want the clerk to make a motion?
Off that. Any other input? Anyone that wants to speak to this matter?
Mark Shapiro, 278 Great Road. Say the committee gives you 2 candidates, 3 candidates. Are you bound to go with those candidates that they send to you for the next chief? Say you don't think they're what you want, they don't fit. Are you bound by that? If they send you 3 guys,
Essentially, they're an advisory committee. So, and you guys can correct me if I'm...
Right, the choice always comes back here.
Yeah, I mean, if the Board of Selectmen is the appointing authority, so if let's say they set up a screening committee, let's say we're on agreement whether that's internal or external or whatever, but there's a finite number of candidates as finalists, come to here, the Board of Selectmen is not obliged to appoint either one of them, in which case we'd have an acting chief of police for an indeterminate period of time, and you'd redo the search.
okay. So you're not bound by what they send you?
Nope.
Good question, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I will entertain a motion.
What days do we have?
We're going on November 20th.
Monday, November 20th.
Okay, move the Board of Selectmen vote to establish a 7-member police chief preliminary screening committee to be comprised of 2 selectmen, one representative of the police union, the finance committee's representative to the personnel board, and 3 members of the community at large appointed by the Board of Selectmen to invite qualified consultants to submit proposals for providing executive search services and to schedule a board meeting on Monday, the 20th of November, 2017, at 6:30 to interview and appoint community at large members and to seek executive search consultant.
Second.
Move to second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you all for your input. Chief, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item on our agenda is the meeting minutes of September 11th, 25th, October 2nd, and 4th. Mr. Glavy, did you appear?
I looked them all over, including the meeting I was not in attendance for, and it looks good to me. I would,
There was one typo.
oh, you found one, I
I
didn't.
did find one, and now I can't
Left the
find
E
it.
out of Glavy.
No. It,
Just an example of
can't
what.
find it.
some that they've
It was
done.
just the name of an
I
organization.
just get nervous of why we,
There was
why.
a typo
All right, so
in the
we'll
name.
throw a sec on that if we find it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Could I ask one question, and perhaps this is my misunderstanding of the needs assessment? The language of the needs assessment note here says that the current fields are overused. And my understanding of the needs assessment was that based on current use, the fields are not overused, but rather
Projected use, yeah.
projected use. And so I'd like to, either I misunderstood it or it's not noted here.
But I think there are some fields that in fact have been overused.
Okay, so my understanding, and let me be more clear, my understanding is that if we allocated our fields' use appropriately, our fields would not be overused based on current use. We are able to keep all of our fields within Gail's recommended limit.
Yeah, I don't think.
And you don't need any more fields?
I don't-
think
No,
that's, I don't think
But the
that's
argument was on.
not the conclusion. Yeah.
But it depends,
You need
because
more
on
fields.
some of those fields that are overused are at the high school. So to move the one that, especially that we just did, so to move them out at the time, I think would be an issue. Can we really send them to someplace else? I think that was the question too. I understand what you're saying, but I think we do have some fields that are more overused than others.
I think characterizing it as currently fields are overused is an oversimplification of their assessment.
What page you on?
Page 204 on
24th.
September 25th. Let's go back there. I mean, what I'm thinking of in particular is their chart that shows if we reallocated how we utilize our fields based on current use, which does not represent the late, right, current fields and current use, and which doesn't represent, latent demand, what we would use if we had it, were not overused if we allocated.
Do you have a language change to propose? I mean, is it?
I think I would just strike current fields already used. I think the conclusions were that inventory does not meet needs.
I absolutely agree.
There you go.
Yeah, period, yeah, so strike the, yeah.
That's fine.
All right. Well, I'll move the minutes as amended.
On page 204 of the 25th, just strike current fields are overused. So it just says, conclusions were that inventory does not meet needs. So motion for all 4 minutes
As amended.
by Mr. Glady.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimous?
Motion to adjourn?
I will accept that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, when is our next meeting, Keith?
It's next Monday night at 6:30.
Tomorrow night. Town meeting.
Oh,
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, yeah.